Glory Hunter, a football manager challenge made popular thanks to Dr. Benji, a challenge that gives you 20 years to win the top division and domestic cup in 5 countries, as well as the Europa League and of course the Champions League. A challenge that requires job hunting to seek your next trophy. A challenge I have never done before. Until today. The rules are that you can start as manager of any club in England, France, Germany, Spain and Italy to begin your journey. And I have decided to choose Borussia Dortmund. With Haaland's departure, this could make this challenge quite difficult in the first couple of seasons. The squad is good, but there are some weaknesses, and we all know the potential Dortmund have to be amazing in a couple of seasons' time, especially with Yusufa Moukoko only at 16. Adeyemi's also in the side. And of course, Jude Bellingham is already one of the best midfielders on the game. Tactically, I've created a 4-3-1-2 and selected players in certain positions that fit, and I've left positions where I have multiple options. It's a very simple tactic that works towards Dortmund's strengths, and I also have the Bilbao tactic as a backup to alter to suit our players. I've approached 2 players who are free agents right now. Florian Grillitsch is a quality midfielder who will help solidify defensively, but also is decent on the ball. And Andrea Belotti, who when used correctly can be an elite striker on the game who works hard and is capable of 30 to 40 goals a season, which of course triggers more clubs to offer than both deals. And then Grillitsch signed for Manchester City, and Belotti joined him. Say hello to Erling for us, lads. We don't really have anything in the budget to buy a player. Akanji and Emre Can are wanted by clubs, so a sale could be a possibility. But we do actually have enough to go for Wober, who is a fantastic ball-playing defender from Salzburg. He's left-footed and can play centre-back or left-back, so is fantastic for cover. He's also relatively cheap too, and our offer was accepted. To my surprise, he wasn't asking for too high of a wages either. And he joins us! Good signing. First game of the season, and it's the first round of the DFB Pokal, against a team that, I'm going to be honest, I've never heard of from the German regional leagues. I basically used it a way to gain fitness on the players who aren't fully fit from pre-season yet. And we won the game 4-2 with our left back scoring a hat-trick. And we've been drawn against our fierce rival Schalke in the next round, which is a game of course with outstanding history for classic matches. But our first Bundesliga game was at home to Eintracht Frankfurt. They are of course the current Europa League holders and my favourite German team. So we look to field what I consider to be our strongest team, Marco Reus being the heartbeat of attacks in the shadow striker role being a key position for me. But it did not go well. Despite us having 16 shots, we couldn't find the net, and we even gifted Frankfurt their first goal. The second, they simply just ripped us open from a superb assist from Filip Kostic. Things aren't going to be easier as it's Bayern Munich up next in the Super Cup. A boring game that we somehow won 8-7 on penalties. Another league game, another 20 shots on goal, but another loss. What is going on? So the game against Hoffenheim was really important, and I made one change, bringing Adeyemi in for Donyell Malen. And thankfully we finally started finishing our chances. Haller with the first, Jude Bellingham then scored the scrappiest second in the second half, but 2 substitutes combined beautifully when Giovanni Reina assisted Donyell Malen for the third. Again, having so many shots and only to the 3 that Hoffenheim had. Our captain Marco Reus has picked up an injury however, and I also accepted a £7 million bid for Marius Wolf from Wolfsburg. Our Champions League group is drawn and Salzburg joins us alongside Lille and Olympiacos. Wolf then rejected Wolfsburg despite the branded opportunities that name combination would have presented him. Into September, and yet again after having more shots we have been destroyed 4-0 by Leverkusen. Luckily Jude Bellingham was on fire in the next game, picking up a hat-trick against Union Berlin. He even missed a penalty in this game for his 4th, but his runs from deep were amazing and led to a 5-1 victory, finished off by a Bellingham header. The following game, Sebastian Haller showed exactly why Borussia Dortmund bought him from Ajax with 2 fantastic goals and a 2-1 win over Gladbach. Our first attempt at winning the Bundesliga is not going to plan, in 9th place after 6 games, but there's still a way to go. Starting off with a Haller header, 4 different goal scorers managed to put one past Augsburg, and things are looking much more promising again. And then we lost at home to Mainz. Luckily we pulled it back and won our next 2 matches, taking us up to 6th place, just 6 points behind Leverkusen. Marco Reus scored an incredible solo goal against Schalke in the cup. They equalised shortly after however. Julian Brandt then got a very good second goal to put us back in front, and who else but Sebastian Haller got a third from a corner. And then all hell broke loose. Schalke received a straight red card for this horrendous tackle. Then, from that resulting free kick, the play continued until for some reason, another one of Schalke's players threw himself through one of ours and received another red card in the same minute of the match. Okay, back to league on a 3-0 win away from home against Leipzig, which has to be our best result yet. Followed on by a 2-0 win against Stuttgart, where not only did Guerrero score, but also assisted the second goal. But of course, we are simply incapable of a perfect month as we go and lose to Wolfsburg 3-0. But I want to ask you, how we've got 20 seasons to achieve Glory Hunter. Do you think it's possible? Let me know down in the comments. Bayern Munich up next. Marco Reus is struggling, and our only main change is Giovanni Reina pops into that centre attacking midfielder role. And we open the scoring in 5 minutes with a fantastic volley from Sebastian Haller. Bayern Munich did equalise though in the first half through Mane's powerful header, but I raise you, Sebastian Haller, who found the winner from a corner to gain us 3 crucial points. And the rest of December was good. And finally, we have an unbeaten month. But wait, what about Europe? Yeah, we absolutely walked the league and finished top, and we've been drawn against Monaco in the next round. Again, we lose to Frankfurt, but that's 2 more wins, including a 3-1 win at Hoffenheim, where Daniel Malin scored himself a hat-trick. Back to the DFB Pokal, and Adeyemi opens the scoring. They then gifted him with a second. Terrible goalkeeping. And finally, Jude Bellingham sent us through 3-0 winners with a corker from outside of the box. Then we had a great comeback against Leverkusen, which led to 4 league wins in total in February. We're back in business. First leg of the Champions League away at Monaco, and we continue our rich vein of form. Haller with 2 goals and an assist, with Bellingham picking up a goal for himself. 3-0 win. Even though we've been fantastic recently, we are still 8 points behind Bayern Munich. A 3-0 win in the DFB Pokal against Cologne takes us into the semi-final, where we've been drawn against Union Berlin, while our biggest competitors, Bayern Munich, they're still in the competition too. March was another fantastic month for us, and it feels like the team is really beginning to gel, which shows with the good team cohesion and club atmosphere. Champions League, and of course we draw Manchester City, and of course Erling Haaland. He scores and we do hold on to a 2-2 draw. We couldn't continue this into the second leg, however, and the first competition that we are eliminated from in Glory Hunter is the Champions League. Luckily, of course, we have another 19 attempts, so from now, let's focus on the DFB Pokal. Semi-final time, and Karim Adeyemi is showing the promise that his potential could lead to. He played absolutely outstanding in this game, picking up 3 goals in total. However, he's going to have to share that match ball, as Jude Bellingham once again from midfield helped contribute to an 8-1 semi-final win with 3 goals of his own. Outstanding stuff, lads. Our unbeaten league run continued as we won 3 games and drew to both Stuttgart and Bayern Munich during April. But with 2 games left, Bayern have been crowned champions, and that means our trophy target this season is just down to 1 final game, the beautiful DFB Pokal. So here we go. Bayern look to be rocking the 4-2-3-1 and don't seem to have replaced Lewandowski. We also have pretty much a fully strengthened team, other than Sule is still recovering from an injury. It took until the half-hour mark before Marco Reus slotted Karim Adeyemi in to score. Bayern, however, were lucky when the ball fell to Goretzka. Then from a Bayern corner, Upamecano scored to make it 2-1. But with some fantastic play on the counter-attack, Guerrero found the run of Julian Brandt, who fired in an equaliser. But this game is back and forth, and Bayern Munich found Kimmich, who plays it back to Gnabry, and with a wonderful cross, found Sadio Mane 3-2. But in the 96th minute, Rafael Guerrero scored a penalty to take this to extra time. And in the second half of extra time from a throw-in, Paslak plays a wonderful through ball and Daniel Malin pops in a 4th. However, with just 2 minutes to go, that man Mane makes it 4-4. Penalties it is. Of course, penalties on Football Manager is just a complete lottery. No matter how good your players are at penalties, I hate them in real life, and I hate them in the game. But when De Ligt stepped up though, miss. And then Bayern's next penalty, saved. And just like that, we have won our first trophy of Glory Hunter in Season 1. We win that beautiful trophy the first time of asking. But with only £46 million in the bank for transfers next season, what do you think needs strengthening? Let me know down in the comments section. Of course, if the next episode is up, I'll put it up on the screen right now. But make sure you subscribe so you do not miss that episode. Thank you. Season 1 of Glory Hunter was successful. Starting off at Dortmund, we won the DFB Pokal against Bayern Munich on penalties. And it's only our first year of 20. So that's the first trophy ticked off. And for now, we stay with Borussia Dortmund, setting our sights on the Bundesliga next. First thing we do is promote Moukoko. Not that we were planning to move, but here are the jobs that popped up at the end of the season. I'm also toying around with this new tactic to get Yusufa Moukoko involved more this season. Maybe with Adeyemi slipping out to the right hand side as the inside forward. Looking at weaknesses, it's probably centre back or right back in my opinion, more so on the right back situation. And my target at right back is Danish defender Christensen. He can kind of play in many positions and he's really well rounded. We managed to get an offer accepted for £25 million up front with 7.5 in instalments. Not bad. Wages were not bad either, and he's happy to be considered a squad player, which I'm happy with. And he signs to become our first income this summer. It's Bayern Munich in our first game of the season in the Super Cup, and time to trial the new tactic. Keeping Haller in the team despite him struggling for now, and bringing in new signing Christensen in at right back with Sule slotting next to Akanji at centre back. And I was right with those decisions as Sebastian Haller put in a glorious cross for Moukoko to score the only goal of the game. Speaking of Bayern Munich, by the way, they've sold Gravenberch already, as well as Pavard. They have brought in 3 players totaling in a £90 million, including former Dortmund player Gundogan from Manchester City. Fully rotated team in the first round of the Cup. We already won this, don't forget, but we still won 2-0. First league game of the season and Karim Adeyemi starts up top, providing us with 2 goals as well. Clinical. Sebastian Haller popped one in to make it 3-0 at half time, and in the second half a fantastic run by Bellingham led to him picking up a goal, and finally Giovanni Reina notched a 5th. 5-0. However, the worst part about this match was the injuries. Marco Reus is now out for a couple of months with his hip, Adeyemi misses a couple of weeks, and so does Thorgan Hazard. And Christensen got a red card too, meaning he's also suspended. And because of the World Cup, fixtures are coming thick and fast in just August alone, including a tie against Bayern Munich. And I actually think Marco Reus won't play until next year. PSG come in with a bid for Akanji for £24 million. And I'm actually going to accept it because he's at the last year of his contract. He's refusing to sign an extension. He then got injured for 3 to 4 weeks in a 3-2 loss to Hamburg. Thankfully, he's still off though. We have depth, but we probably still need to replace him. And my target is 19-year-old Zabarnyi from Dynamo Kiev. He's very talented and a good defender. We eventually negotiated a deal around £35 million. Bayern Munich match, and with the injuries in mind, I want it to be a bit more stable and changed back to the 4-3-1-2 from last season. It didn't really start well, however, when Upamecano scored from a set piece. Bayern then took full advantage of us having a weaker team, and Serge Gnabry scored a second before half time. It took until the 77th minute before a ball was turned in from us from an own goal, but in the 87th minute, Sebastian Haller smashed an equaliser emphatically. I'll take a draw here. And right after that, we got our man Zabarnyi joins the team. Champions League draw, and we get put into a group with PSG. A tough third team joins us in Atalanta, and eventually Trabzonspor completes the group. 2 losses and a draw. It isn't fantastic from our first 7 games, but with the amount of injuries we suffered, it could have been worse. Still, it sees us in the top 3, and Haller is running the Golden Boot race. Window closed, and I think we've done alright considering the money we were not given. Our next 5 league matches come around, and all of a sudden we are picking up wins everywhere. And one player's name kept popping up. The American Giovanni Reina. He just could not stop scoring goals in Royce's absence. Despite us going 1-0 down in our first Champions League match, we ended playing some fantastic football. After they then gifted us a second goal, Adeyemi also popped one in. And then a beautifully played goal, Jude Bellingham scored another. Jude would definitely be a player that I would be picking for my fantasy league. Speaking of which, do you guys want to join my fantasy league this season? So whilst we take a look at some Champions League goals, let me hit you with some information. Like last year, we are going to be using SPITCH. It's free to play, however you do have to be 18 or over, as you can actually enter paid competitions on the site. But you don't have to pay to actually win money. A 2-0 loss to PSG is not great, and a 0-0 draw away to Atalanta. It didn't start at all well in the home leg to PSG, but luckily we soon pulled ourselves back in it. Now, like real life management, SPITCH allows you to field a brand new 11 every single game week, not restricting you with a set amount of transfers. So if you wanted to choose Donyell Malen after he scores this equaliser against PSG here for the next Bundesliga game, there's just no stopping you. The point system on SPITCH is far better and much more in depth too. For instance, nobody actually scores in this highlight against Atalanta, but my players would still be picking up points because of the successful passing, the cross, and the shot on target, plus the defender for the other team would get points for blocking that shot. So there are 2 links at the top of the description. The first one is to actually sign up for SPITCH, and the second one underneath is how you join my community league. But again, you do have to be 18 years of age or over from the UK, Germany, or Austria. Make sure you have your identification ready so you can verify your account. So make sure you join, because there's almost 100 people in our community league already. SPITCH has just launched Season Mode 2, where if you play the entire season, your top 5 lineups count towards winning a huge prize, which again, you can enter for free if you wish. But if you do decide to put £5 in, there's a £50,000 prize pot. So again, top of the description to sign up, link underneath to join the community league, and thank you very much. Let's have some fun with some fantasy football. So we did only lose 1 game in the Champions League to PSG, but didn't exactly set the tournament on fire, finishing 2nd place in our group. Our league form has suffered too, a loss to Eintracht Frankfurt and a draw to Bayer Leverkusen. Karim Adeyemi is having a lot of fun though, scoring a 25th minute hat-trick against Holstein Kiel, the FM21 youth to goal team of course. We are out of the cup by the way, we played a rotated team and Union Berlin beat us. And now we have to wait for the World Cup before we can continue our season. I thought I'd mention it right now, I'm not going to be doing the World Cup or the Euros as part of this Glory Hunter because international football just doesn't appeal to me at all on FM. For those of you who do care though, the final of the World Cup was played between Argentina and Italy, and after 90 minutes it was 0-0 and eventually went to penalties where Italy missed 2 and Argentina are crowned world champions. I'm sure that wouldn't lead to any interesting debates. We are currently sat in 4th place in the league and have been drawn against Liverpool in the Champions League. And look at this too, Adeyemi picking up FIFA Under-21's Player of the Year and the European Golden Boy. Haller also getting African Player of the Year too, ahead of Mohamed Salah. While Lionel Messi picked up his 46th Ballon d'Or. First game back against Freiburg and we have our backup goalkeeper in goal. What could possibly go wrong? Nothing, actually, in this game, as Giovanni Reina once again put on a show, scoring 2 and assisting 1 in a 4-1 victory. The next Bayern Munich match is upon us and it's 1st versus 2nd. This is thanks to a good run of form we've had, only dropping points to Mainz. Again, I think it's best if we switch the previous tactic against Bayern Munich, as it's better defensively and hopefully we can catch them on an off day. And what a game it was. We were off to a flyer when Reina chipped Neuer 1 minute in. Then not long after, Adeyemi scored a 2nd. But it was never going to be easy and Thomas Müller scored. And Serge Gnabry equalised. And then Thomas Müller scored their 3rd. And finally, after some great play, Sebastian Haller scored an 86th minute equaliser. We come into the Champions League game against Liverpool on good form, but we are missing Adeyemi. We started strong when Haller scored in the 12th minute and a penalty in the 16th. But the 2nd best African Player of the Year got one back for Liverpool. And yet again, we gave up a 2-goal lead when Keita equalised in the 89th minute. We then took our first loss in the league since before the beginning of October, right after the Liverpool game against Cologne. We do pick up 2 more wins right after though, going into the 2nd leg. And we are just 3 points behind Bayern Munich with 11 games to go. We stick with a 4-3-1-2 against Liverpool and Sebastian Haller gives us the lead. New Liverpool signing Darwin Núñez equalises though and takes this to extra time. This is where our legs are tired and Liverpool score with 2 more new signings. First Noni Madueke and then Gabi goal to eliminate us from the competition. Just the Bundesliga to focus on then. After Liverpool, we next hosted Leipzig, where Homo scored the only goal of the game. Next up, we travelled to Hoffenheim, where Adeyemi gave us a lead. Suarez then equalised in the 2nd half, but our American dream, Giovanni Reina, came through once again with the winner. And Bayern Munich, to my shock, have lost 3 matches in the league recently, which somehow sees us go top on goal difference, tied with both Bayern Munich and Bayer Leverkusen. But we do have our bogey team Eintracht Frankfurt up next. Despite them playing a really defensive 4-5-1, they actually took the lead through Emil Forsberg. Didn't hold us off long though, as Reina equalised. And Makuku then gave us the lead going into half-time. 2nd half and Frankfurt put it back 2-2. But Karim Adeyemi stepped up and not only scored a 3rd, but also a 4th. Good win. We followed that with 2 more wins to Wolfsburg and Holstein Kiel. But Bayern Munich was still level on points with us with 2 games to go, and Leverkusen only dropped 2 points and could still pinch it. And that's who we play next at home. Now with a couple of injuries and our left back Guerrero being suspended, our team is looking a little bit ropey. But once we kicked off, Sebastian Haller's header found 18-year-old Yusufa Makuku to give us an early lead. And then Jude Bellingham slotted in a wonderful pass for Haller to open his body up and make it 2-0. In a game we dominated in statistics with 24 shots to Leverkusen's 5, eliminating their chance of their first ever Bundesliga. Bayern still wouldn't drop off though, and they beat Cologne with their final game at home to 7th place Hertha Berlin, whereas we actually take a trip to Berlin ourselves against Union. Guerrero comes straight back in at left back with a straight swap for Emre Can, and we are underway. It took all but 18 minutes before Marco Reus found Haller with a cross to give us the early lead. Even better still that Hertha scored. Bayern did come back with a goal, but they needed to score another and for Union Berlin to equalise. But time ran out and the full-time whistle was blown, and Borussia Dortmund are crowned champions. 2 seasons in, 2 trophies. And so our time at Borussia Dortmund was a lot shorter than I expected it to be. However, there are no appealing jobs available right now, and even the insecure roles aren't really title contenders. So we may have to leave our role at Dortmund and hope that one of these managers at bigger clubs take the role that we have just left. But what do you think we should do? Let me know down in the comment section, of course, and if you want to join my fantasy league, SPITCH, at the top of the description, the first link to sign up, and the second is how to join the community league. Thank you very much. If the next episode is here, I'll pop it up on the screen for you. See you soon. In Season 2, we won the Bundesliga, so that's another trophy ticked off. And I asked you whether you think I should stay at Borussia Dortmund or I should resign and look for a new club. And thank you very much for flooding my comments with advice on what to do. I have decided to resign from Borussia Dortmund and try and force a manager merry-go-round. Hilariously, Bayern Munich are another team looking for a manager, and this is because Nagelsmann was sacked. Not ideal if I'm competing for him with a job. So while we wait at the job centre, let me remind you we have Fantasy Football League for the start of the new season. Pep Guardiola, who has just left Manchester City. So of course I declared my interest in the role and I applied for the job. And City rejected us. Great. Manchester City have then hired Allegri, who left Juventus. So of course I applied and declared my interest. The last thing I want to tell you about SPITCH is the brand new season mode. If you play through the year on season mode, your top 5 lineups are put together and you could win a huge cash prize. For £5, the jackpot is £50,000, but there is also a free option too. So again, let's have some fun with some fantasy football. The links are at the top of the description. The first one to sign up, the second one to join my community league. Come join my community league. Let's have some fun with SPITCH. Back to the job hunt, and Pep Guardiola is favourite for the role and Juve reject us. And this is what I was worried about with only having 2 years in the job. Yes, we have 2 trophies, but is our manager CV going to be attractive enough for a high profile club? Pep takes the Juve job and the season is underway and we're still jobless with no jobs available. Into November and some jobs are cropping up. But no way am I taking a job at 20th in the league. I need like an outside title chance in a couple of years. I can't be doing with like a 4 or 5 year rebuild at a club which is mid-table or below. And then an interesting proposition came about. The Atletico Madrid job. So once again, I declared my interest and I applied for the job. And we become the leading candidate for the role, as well as Werder Bremen, which I of course have no interest in joining. A week has passed and finally an interview. And the questions of language and lack of experience came about. And of course, I answer all this by flashing my DFB Pokal and Bundesliga medals. Because of course, 2 seasons, 2 trophies. My record speaks for itself. Europa League is the aim for this season from the board, but I toyed with saying Champions League. But we are 10th for the league, so probably not. So I just agree with them. Budgets was next on the agenda, and I just said anything that I felt like they would want to hear. Just give me the job, Enrique. But all of a sudden, I'm no longer favourite for the Atletico Madrid job. I am for the German clubs, though. Great. They did want to chat about the backroom staff, however. I just agreed with whatever it was, really, and just pressed continue while crossing my own fingers. And here we go! Atletico Madrid have offered me the manager's position. A 3-year deal as well. Hopefully, by then we can be holding my trophies. But in my new office, their tactical setup is just like the Borussia Dortmund tactic. Perfect. Currently sat in 9th, but 3 points behind 4th place. We landed on our feet here. However, there is one big weakness in the club. There's not really a striker in the team. There's a couple of players who can play there, like Cunha or Correa, but they are definitely better in attacking midfield. So I have created a strikerless tactic for us to use for now. Something I have a history of doing well in the past. We are also lacking a lot of staff members too. But we've already qualified for the Champions League group, but with 2 games left, we look to take top spot from Liverpool. In our first game as Atletico manager, we head to Osasuna. And this is our lineup. A few players are struggling for fitness on the bench, but our team is still very strong. And we took the lead when Angel Correa scored an outrageous chip when the keeper went wandering. Osasuna fought back and equalised in the second half. However, in the 93rd minute, Correa turned provider when he found Cunha, who scored the winner. And it was Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool next, who have just won back-to-back Champions League in this world so far. But in an incredibly boring match, Darwin Núñez scored the only goal in the 92nd minute. After 2 more league wins, our first big test is Barcelona, who sit in first place. And we've jumped up to 6th, which is fantastic for us. But of course, Lewandowski at Barcelona is top of the league on form with 13 goals so far this season. However, 33-year-old Felipe took all the plaudits with 2 goals from corners in a 2-0 win. Imagine my shock when I check the transfer market and I see some of my former players on there, including my first ever signing Wilbert and Sebastian Haller, my main striker. When take a look at Dortmund, who Alfred Truder has taken over of, they have made some quality signings, including both Gavi and Nico from Barcelona for £13 million. I checked the loan market and Ansu Fati is on there for an incredibly low wage and a monthly fee. And we secured that deal and bring him in, a player we could also play up front or anywhere across the midfield. At Southampton though is where I found my striker in Beto. We negotiated a deal with Southampton of £40 million overall, but £30 million up front and a little bonuses after some appearances. And we took our first loss in the league when Sevilla beat us 2-0 in Fati's first game. We then secured the signing of Beto, and I really don't believe he is world class, but he is incredibly talented on this game and can score a lot of goals. We then travelled to Saudi Arabia for the Super Cup semi-final against Real Madrid in our first Madrid derby in the job. And Cunha absolutely destroyed them, scoring a hat-trick in a 3-0 victory. And then that's when we come across a problem. Beto cannot play for more than 2 teams in one season. I thought he'd only played for Southampton, but then I seen he made a substitute appearance for Udinese at the very beginning of the season in the Cup. So now we can't register him till the end of the season. After 2 bad results as well in the league and the Super Copa final, we advanced through the Copa del Rey after extra time, and then defeated Malaga in the league 5-1, but this was using a tactic with a striker. Basically, I just moved a shadow striker up front and it seemed to have worked really well. So we might be seeing some more of this. After another draw to Villarreal, we currently sit in 5th place. And we progressed through the Copa del Rey in a 5-2 win at Lugo. February was an incredible month. The striker tactic is performing. 4 league wins, 1 cup win, and the first leg of the semi-final cup draw against Barcelona. And yet none of those was the best result of the month. This 4-0 first leg Champions League win against Manchester City was definitely better. Remember, this is a team that rejected us without an interview. Yet again, this striker tactic helped us boss the game, but the lads were just simply much more clinical than Manchester City. They played a 4-4-2 under Allegri and we absolutely dominated the midfield battle. And even though statistically the game looked fairly even, they had more possession. We scored 4, they scored 0. Time for the second leg of the Copa del Rey semi-final at home to Barcelona, who looked to be rocking a classic 4-3-3. And what a game it was. Left back Amir Dedic assisted Cunha for the opener. But after great play down the left, Dedic once again crossed a wonderful ball in for Cunha to score a second. But the goal of the game came late when Jeffrey Kondogbia scored a worldy volley into the top corner and we go through to the final. Awaiting us is a mouth-watering Madrid derby, which was actually our next league game match too. A match we won 1-0. We've definitely been on a roll since the turn of the year, and it's seen us climb up to 2nd place and look almost certain for the top 4 as well. And of course I jinxed myself and we lost to Getafe next, but still stayed unbeaten against Manchester City. Things you love to see. So as of right now, we're in the fight for 3 trophies in the Glory Hunter campaign, and of course we're quite late on in the season now, so things are getting very interesting. After back-to-back 5-1 home wins in the league, we travelled to Turin, where yet again we put 4 past our Champions League opponents. This being the first leg of the quarter-final being very impressive, considering our team was also missing some crucial players like Llorente and Jose Jimenez. They did get themselves a goal as well, but we left the game as 4-1 winners on our way back to Madrid, where we still won that game 3-2. And Manchester United stands in our way of a Champions League final. Speaking of finals, it's Copa del Rey final time. And of course, our first attempt at a trophy at Glory Hunter in Spain. But Real Madrid caught us early with a Benzema goal. Ansu Fati scored a beautiful goal to equalise right after, but once again, that man, Karim Benzema, scored another wonderful goal to put Real back in the lead. And our pursuit of the trophy ended when Kingsley Coman slapped in a third. Yet another 2 5-1 victories in the league, and it's Champions League time. We have a lot of injuries in this fixture, however. Carrasco, Llorente and Saul are all starters for us. And Beto, of course, would have been there as well. So this is our lineup for the first leg. And once again, Felipe scored 2 goals from 2 set pieces without a response from Maurizio Sarri's Manchester United. We then kept the pressure on Barcelona with a good win against Sociedad and are now just 2 points behind them with 3 games left. And look who our next game is against. But first, it's Champions League time at Old Trafford. With our 2-0 lead, the last thing we wanted was United to score early, which is exactly what they did on 14 minutes. Unfortunately, they scored again, taking the game to extra time, and that's where we completely fell apart. We were a man down from the 50th minute with Kondogbia getting 2 yellow cards. Manchester United scored 2 more in extra time to win the tie 4-2, taking themselves into the final. Dusting ourselves off, it's the Barcelona match at the Camp Nou, and our team are exhausted. So many fitness problems, I'm not sure we can cope a full 90 minutes against top of the league. And unfortunately, I was right. Sevilla next then. Tough game. A game we actually made look easy despite all of our players still being tired. We scored 3 goals in the first half alone and finished the game off in the 68th minute with both teams down to 10 men. But Barcelona just need to beat Malaga and they win the league. Or at least draw the game, and that's exactly what they did. So considering we took over in 9th, we can be dead proud of how far we came. But I can't help feel a little bit gutted that we came so close to 3 different trophies and we didn't get any of them. Job security wise, Arsenal look to be the only club close to becoming available, but with them down in 15th place and only having 41 points, I think I'll give that one a miss. So tune in to the next episode, which I'll pop on the screen if it is out, and make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss it if it isn't. And of course, SPITCH is at the top of the description. Thank you very much. I'll see you soon. Second in the La Liga, semi-final of the Champions League, and runners-up in the Copa del Rey. We were so close to one of 3 trophies in our 6 months at Atletico Madrid. However, we've only been given £6 million in the transfer budget, and there's a job that has just appeared at Liverpool. They only lost the Premier League to City on goal difference, and it's probably really rare that this job ever really appears. So I've decided to go ahead and apply for it. And I just hope that Atletico don't fire me for doing so. And for those of you wondering where Jurgen Klopp has gone, he is now the manager of Tottenham Hotspur. Back to our job though, and I accept a £24 million bid for Thilo Kehrer. And oh my god, an interview. Right, well the first few questions, and it's all about my past, which I basically lie and just say I've got a proven track record and prefer to stay at the job for long periods of time, which we all know is complete fiction. Backroom staff changes, which I'm happy to just keep as it is, and that's fine. But then there's this. Transfer budget of over £130 million. Yeah, mate, that's fine, thanks. Keep composed, though, and see off the rest of the interview. £130 million, when we were literally only given 6. And now, we wait. While Kehrer rejects Leeds and keeps our transfer budget low. Cheers, lad. But unfortunately, Liverpool have rejected us, and they went with Alfred Schroeder, who sounds familiar, right? Yeah, he's the guy who replaced us at Borussia Dortmund. He won the DFB Pokal and then left. Unbelievable. We focus on Atletico then, and we just lost centre-back Felipe, whose contract ran out. So I've decided to go with the experience and target Coates with what little budget I can manoeuvre. The offer was accepted and it's just a contract. Low wage, but just too short for my liking, so we add an optional extension. Action-packed start here as we also have takeover rumours. Coates signs and I love what we've brought in here. He is a real leader and he's incredible at the back. And what he lacks in pace, he makes up for much more by being dangerous from set pieces. A great signing. We are picking up some really annoying injuries too during training. 4 players who are going to miss the first game of the season and maybe longer, and 3 of them are starting 11 players. Speaking of the first game, we head to Bilbao. And of course, the first game for our striker, Beto, who of course we signed last year and we couldn't use, and you know the story. And it only took him 4 minutes to score his first goal for the club. Bilbao came back with fire though and equalised shortly after. And then they went went and took the lead. An unexpected equaliser came when Dedic fired in goal of the season contender on game week 1, and the winner came in the 85th minute when Rodrigo de Paul beat the offside trap and slotted it in the near post. Beto followed up with another goal and a 2-0 win against Betis, where Koke scored a rocket for a second. Champions League time, and despite us finishing in second place, we are the 3rd seed club, which makes our draw much more difficult. Eventually, after all the groups had 2 teams drawn, one team became more and more standout, and then it happened. We joined Group H with Borussia Dortmund, our former employers. I mean, that group could have been harder, but I'm happy. Although Roma did win Serie A last season by 7 points. Back to the league, and returning Coria came off the bench to clinch a winner in the 92nd minute against Valencia. We hosted my former club Dortmund first, and Luis Suarez opened the scoring in 1 minute. Thankfully, Cunha equalised not too long after. Second half, and Beto hit the bar, but Cunha was there to tap in a second. And clearly, the bond I have with these Dortmund players is strong, because Zabani winked at me and he scored an own goal, 3-1. And we actually had a fantastic September, winning all but one of the games, unfortunately dropping 2 points to Osasuna. Back to Glory Hunter, we are currently sat in second position only because Barcelona have a perfect record so far, and we play them very, very soon. Going into that game, we defeated Trabzonspor 5-1, but we drew 0-0 to Eibar. However, we scored the only goal of the game through Rodrigo de Paul to take the 3 points and give Barcelona their first loss. We did lose to Roma though, but we got ourselves another 2 league wins, and we are scoring a good amount of goals in the process, putting us just 1 point behind Barcelona, still unbeaten in the league and top of our Champions League group through goal difference. And this is where it all went downhill. 2 0-0 draws to Villarreal and Roma, followed by a 1-0 loss to Elche in the league. We did win 3-0 against Celta Vigo, but all 3 goals were from corners scored by defenders. So I don't know what's happened to our scary front line. What has happened to Beto? He's only scored 6 goals in the league in 14 starts. However, he did show up in the Champions League, scoring 3 goals and a 7-0 win at home to Trabzonspor. But that isn't really a realistic competition for us to win this year. The League and Cup is, in my opinion. And we end November in 3rd behind Barcelona, who dropped more points, and new leaders Real Madrid, who are 4 points ahead with a game in hand and still unbeaten. In the Champions League, we are 1 point ahead of Dortmund in second spot, with them to play in the final game. A game in which they took the lead when Serda scored from a corner. But we bounced back when Rodrigo de Paul scored a lovely volley. Beto then turned provider, slotted in Carrasco, who found the far corner for the second, and late in the game we were pushed for a third, and that man Beto got his goal again, which capped off a brilliant December where we only got wins, but 2 games against Madrid next, who are still top. We have actually jumped above Barcelona though and closed the gap on Real Madrid, who if we beat, we overtake as well, giving them their first loss of the season. Champions League, we still finished second in the group and will face Juventus in the first round knockouts, who are still managed by Pep Guardiola. Speaking of jobs, look what has just become available. The club that I support, Manchester United, with Wayne Rooney as their current favourite. They find themselves 7th and having a bad year, as well as Chelsea. Arsenal jumping straight back up after their 15th finish, only 7 points short of their total points last season, but with half the games played. Patrick Vieira steadying the ship here, I see. In Italy, Napoli are on top right now, champions Roma down to 4th. PSG are leading Ligue 1, with Monaco down in 10th, surprisingly. And just in case you wanted to know, Bayern Munich are leading the Bundesliga, with Dortmund trailing by 7 points. Bayern side led by Real Madrid legend Zidane. And with that incredible transition, speaking of Real Madrid, we head to the Bernabeu, where Vini Jr. gave Real Madrid the lead. We equalised when Carrasco volleyed in at the back post, but from kickoff, Real scored again. Once more, we equalised through Coria, but it wasn't to be, and Vini Jr. scored the winner in the 87th minute. Another job appeared at Chelsea, and it was at this point I seriously considered applying for both of those Premier League jobs, knowing how difficult of a task it was to beat Real Madrid and Barcelona across 38 league games. But I decided against it, and I continued my job here at Atletico for now, where we put in a fantastic performance against Bilbao, scoring 4 goals without response, but at times we actually looked unplayable. We also defeated Oviedo in the Copa del Rey through Carrasco's goal. We did sell 2 defenders during January, however, and raised £18 million, but this was mainly because of our finances were looking a little bit ropey. January was an up and down month in all honesty, 2 cup wins but 2 league losses, 9 points behind Real and Betis in the quarters of the Copa del del Rey, who we just lost to in the league. It took 2 late extra time goals from Beto and Llorente for us to dispatch Betis 4-2 and take us through to the semi-finals of the Copa del Rey, a competition, of course, we still need to check off the Glory Hunter list, where we faced Barcelona across 2 legs. The first we lost at the Camp Nou 3-2 with only 10 men when Rodrigo de Paul got himself sent off at the half-hour mark. Despite that, we were actually 2-0 up until the 63rd minute as well. Before we look at the league, it's Juve in the Champions League first leg. This fixture was played at home and Beto opened the scoring on the 30th minute. We were lucky to get a penalty on the stroke of half-time to make it 2-0, and Saul stepped up late to fire in a gorgeous free kick. 3-0 winners. You look at our fixtures here and you say that the least likely game for us to lose would have been Huesca, the game in which we actually lost 1-0 before that Juve win. After putting 4 goals past Granada, in which Beto scored 2, it was Copa del Rey second leg time. And with being a goal down, we needed to score, of course, which is exactly what Beto did at the start of the second half. But in the 92nd minute, a ball down the left was crossed in for Cunha to get the winner, sending us into the final 4-3 on aggregate, where it's Valencia who awaits us. Cunha also scored against Juve in that second leg in a 1-1 draw, meaning we head to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. Our league form has suffered though because of these cup runs, and we lose another 2 games, including a 5-0 hammering at Barcelona, taking us way off the pace of Real Madrid, who is running away with it this year. We have drawn into Milan 2 in the Champions League quarterfinals, and they are currently still managed by Mancini, with Lukaku and Lautaro Martinez still at the club. And the first leg is at the Giuseppe Meazza, and it did not go to plan. We started strong in the second leg when Beto scored after 4 minutes, and we took the lead too when Rodrigo de Paul found space to score a beautiful goal. Inter Milan tied the leg in the second half, but Hannibal put us ahead with 15 minutes to play. But in the 95th minute, Luis Diaz scored, taking the game to extra time. But what hurt us even more was in the 120th +1 minute, Stefan Savic scored an own goal to eliminate us from the Champions League in heartbreaking fashion. And in fact, we couldn't buy a win in April, with 2 league losses heading into the Copa del Rey final. Gattuso is still the man in charge of Valencia, and they tended to have sold 1 big player per season to fund some smaller, smarter signings, which I'm actually quite impressed with. But let's see. We are missing Cunha and Jimenez from our starting 11, so that's some big losses for us. Let's just hope we don't fumble this trophy like Sergio Ramos did. But it was the unlikely name of Jeffrey Kondogbia who scored the only goal of the game in the 83rd minute, crowning us Copa del Rey champions. Another trophy we can now tick off the Glory Hunter list. And although our league hopes are almost dead, this is considered a very successful season in my eyes. Do I leave Atletico though? Because the gap between us and Real Madrid seems massive, and am I wasting some precious years trying to chase them? To put it into perspective, we just finished the season in 3rd place and 27 points behind Real Madrid, who actually finished 21 points ahead of Barcelona, only losing 1 game all season. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to leave for the sake of it, but what if a very interesting job came up elsewhere? What would you do? Would you leave or would you stay at Atletico Madrid? Because we only have £22 million to spend and improve this aging team. As you can see, the majority of our first team is in their 30s. And oh look, the Juventus job has just opened up. Last season was our second at Atletico Madrid. We finished in 3rd place in La Liga, knocked out the Champions League by Inter Milan, but we did win the Copa del Rey. And that means we add another trophy to our trophy cabinet at Glory Hunter, which takes us to 3 trophies in 4 seasons. However, the Juventus job just came up. And given that our team was aging slightly and we were 27 points behind Real Madrid with not a lot of transfer budget, we really considered it. They finished in 5th place, which actually made me think Europa League run as well, which made it even more attractive. And they have an insane squad and brought in some amazing players like Thomas Lemar, Maxi Gomez, and channel favourite Scalvini. But Vlahovic is the player that excites me the most. He is incredible in this game. And all of that is enough to convince me to apply for the job. Former manager Pep Guardiola wasn't sacked, by the way. He simply joined Chelsea, who only had a caretaker boss in charge. Remember, I only had £20 million to upgrade this squad, so God only knows how much Madrid have. So suggesting we are in for players like Michael Elise is very unlikely. Looking at the bookies, Marcelinho is the current favourite for the role, and he is in fact also employed as the England manager after losing losing his job with Spain. Unfortunately though, we taste rejection again. So back to the drawing board. But when I go to making a sign-in, the offer is blocked. Apparently I need to sign younger players. But with what money? So seeing as I think we need a right back, I find Estevez, who in the age category the board are asking for, and eventually we have a bid accepted for him. A contract was offered and hopefully we can get this deal done. But wait, hold on. Mbappe as a free agent. There is no way, surely. Well, he wants a lot of money, but if we do move the budgets around, it's actually possible. And of course, our offer attracts even more interest. It also means we are going to delay the transfer of Estevez simply because we won't afford both. And come on, it's Kylian Mbappe. And then not only does Mbappe choose Manchester United over us, the right back we are going to sell rejected his move. So I also cancel the move for Estevez. I just don't see how we're going to improve and kick on and win the La Liga. I just can't see it happening with no money. My next target is Basir Omaragic, very talented Swiss centre-back that hopefully is young enough for the board being 23 and we don't have to spend too much money on. Spurs came back asking for more money and I'm not really willing to go over £20 million because I'm hoping to build up some funds for another transfer and I need all the money I can get. Spurs reject the offer and I think it's time to walk away. That target I mentioned earlier is Swedish wonderkid Rooney Bargi. He's still at Copenhagen and is very cheap and fills out our options up top, which we are quite light on. And while we are spending pennies, Real Madrid are making moves to extend the gap even further from us. Oh, by the way, Brendan Rodgers got the Juve job, which means we could go to Leicester. You may laugh, but they did finish third last season. They actually have an unreal team too. They've kept all of their decent players, developed them into stars, and even added players like Damsgaard, Andre Silva, and Donyell Marlin. It's so tempting, but what would you do? Let me know in the comments. Bit of positivity as Rooney Bargi joins us, a quality player who will really help us in the attacking sense. And I've decided to pass on Leicester. I like them. They have a great team, probably backed with more money than we are, but I fear the reputation I have will be affected if I keep moving. And in all honesty, probably not good enough to win the Premier League for a few seasons. And I just can't wait for them to now knock us out of the Champions League, probably. I also promote Academy forward Samu Moura up to the first team as he looks rather special and far better than some of the players we have already, in all honesty. I also tweaked the tactic and made a 4-2-3-1, which I'm hoping brings us more success in the league, where we struggle to score and draw. The Lyon job also become available, simply because the former manager Pochettino took the Leicester job. He's also had the Monaco job too before Lyon. It's our first game of the season against Espanyol with only one transfer all summer. And we start that only transfer Rooney on the right hand side to see what he can bring us. And things started incredibly well when Koke gave us the lead with a great strike 4 minutes in. Our two centre backs were on fire today because Llorente also hit a rocket in from range. Beto tried joining this elite group in the second half, but his shot cannoned off the post and new man Rooney Bargi was there to tap in the rebound, 3-0. The next game is against Elche and I've just noticed a 10:15 kickoff at night. Is that normal and local time? Anyway, we won the game 1-0. Champions League draw time, and out of all the groups I can see, Group C and E is the best options for us, and C is the group we get. I instantly got excited, but then it popped into my head. Maybe a difficult group would mean that we finish third and stand a better chance of winning a trophy in the Europa League. But anyway, Celtic finished off our group. Deadline day and I kept £17 million just in case I can pick up some value on deadline day itself, seeing as none of our players are attracting any interest other than Mafio, who refuses every club that comes in for him. Nope, window closes and I'm annoyed. We were given nothing to improve the squad, but Madrid just chucked £50 million on a bench player. Our first Champions League game, we had great control from the first 10 minutes of the game against Celtic, and by the 12th minute, Carrasco was scoring our third goal of the game. Our La Liga form, however, wasn't quite as good. We dropped points 2 games in a row, and we then followed on a loss to Valencia at home with a draw to Celta Vigo. And then we followed that with a 7-0 away win to Villarreal somehow, which sees us in third place, 3 points behind the top 2. Beto started October in incredible form with back-to-back hat-tricks, first one in the Champions League against Lyon, and then this one in the league against Mallorca, capped off with 2 very late goals. But a bad result against Chelsea, and then getting spanked by Lewandowski for 4 goals. And the second half of the month is not as great as the first. First Madrid derby and Carrasco scored a beautiful free kick. I couldn't believe what I was seeing when Angel Correa doubled the lead. But it's Real Madrid, and in the 85th minute, youngster Matanovic scored 1. A minute later, Vinicius Jr. got himself an equaliser, and I cannot catch a break. Thankfully, the rest of the month went well and we remained unbeaten, including 2-0 against Chelsea. And jobs were starting to show up. And even Mancini is insecure in the Inter Milan role. Somehow we lost away to Celtic in our last game of the Champions League, which actually cost us top spot in our group. But that was the only bad result of the month, and we won all 3 of our league games, including a 3-1 win to Osasuna where Matthias Cunha scored worldies after worldies and picking up a hat-trick, so things aren't all that bad. And yet with all of these wins, we are still 8 points behind Barcelona. We finally sold Carrera for nearly £20 million, giving us some budget to play around with. And we even won the Super Coppa too. I guess it all adds to the reputation. And with the money from Carrera, I wanted to bring in a longer replacement at centre-back with both of ours in their 30s, and that's where Maxence Lacroix comes in. After a bit of negotiation, we do a deal with a lot of installments. Yes, but I really need better players to compete, so it's kind of necessary. But of course, Liverpool also make an offer as well. And of course, he goes to Liverpool. And this feels awfully familiar as a Manchester United fan. All in all, January was actually a good month for us on the pitch, with only 3 points dropped in an away tie to Real Betis. On deadline day, we finally brought a player in. Yes, it's underwhelming, isn't it? I keep checking the job centre, don't you worry. We trail Barcelona by 7 points and we've got Lazio in the Champions League. I'm also thinking we try hard for the Copa del Rey. I know we've won it already, but I think if we win it, then it adds to our reputation, another trophy that we can put on our Football Manager CV to help us get other jobs. And we put ourselves into the semi-final when we defeated Osasuna 4-0. Pretty simple stuff, and we are looking much stronger in this 4-2-3-1 tactic after Christmas. It's just Barcelona who are playing hard to catch. Speaking of Barcelona, that's who we drew in the next round, and we held them to a 3-3 draw in the first leg. And this is where the new jobs began to appear. Lazio intrigued me, but they basically have not improved their team, or even changed it. And in 5 seasons, that screams lack of money. And we've just beaten them 2-0 in the Champions League. Just an annoying loss to Almeria to dampen our February. Second leg time, winner to face Real Madrid probably. Jimenez was suspended, so Pavlovic starts alongside Coates. And this is where things got really weird. Barcelona played their strongest team. They got Lewandowski, Pedri, De Jong, Fati, Rodri, among many other names. And we destroyed them, scoring 4 goals. Yes, they had 6 shots on target themselves, but Oblak with an 8.7 saved them all. And we head into the final in style, 4-0 winners. But then I came across this. The Manchester United job became available again. And I can't ignore that job twice, especially with the situation we were in at Atletico, so I decided to apply, declare interest, and I talked some bollocks to the press about how I'd love to be another Jurgen Klopp. I mean, I would be perfect for the job, especially because, as you can see, I'm a complete bottler. Losing to Lazio in the 96th minute. But it's time to stick a tie on because Manchester United have approached me for an interview. After some questions about myself and my very short career so far, I just told them all the things that I think they wanted to hear. Supporting this team all my life has been some advantages in that regard. Let me be your puppet. And then I was asked the dreaded question, would you be happy to work with our director of football? And please understand that I am currently recording this on the day that Manchester United have bid for Arnautovic and Rabiot in real life. But I just said yes, and I carried on with the interview, telling them that I can start immediately if they needed. Good news, I think. They approached us then for the backroom staff changes. Now, as an opportunity like this in real life, I would be booting every member of the board as possible, as well as Darren Fletcher, as I genuinely don't see what he does at Manchester United or the qualifications that he has to deserve that role. And then I bring in a brand new recruitment team who knew more players than the ones that they've just heard names of on Sky Sports. Anyway, after all of that, all I requested was to bring in some coaches that I had at Atletico, and I stayed within the budget. And the news we've been waiting for, Manchester United approach Omega Luke. A 2-year contract on £80,000 a week. An absolute dream job for me. Well, actually, the dream job would be head of recruitment at Manchester United, but still, this comes pretty close. And just like that, Manchester United hire Omega Luke. This squad, by the way, that has been built is absolutely incredible. Because do you remember in this episode who rejected us? It was Kylian Mbappe. We spent just 2 seasons at Atletico Madrid, but then Manchester United gave me a job interview, and I smashed that job interview, and I became the new Manchester United manager. 3 trophies down, we still need to return to Spain for La Liga at some point though. And our target now is the FA Cup and of course, the beautiful Premier League. And although the Premier League has more contenders than La Liga who could realistically win it, we do have an incredible team here at Old Trafford, led of course by Kylian Mbappe in his prime. But players like Ricci in midfield and putting him alongside Tonali, Eric Garcia at the back having developed incredibly well, and they are all around about 25 years of age. Pedro Porro is there as well as Boubacar Kamara. If only this was real life. They also won the Champions League 2 seasons ago. Again, I wish. When I took over, they were knocked out of Europa League thanks to Barcelona and still in the quarter-finals of the FA Cup. It's against Manchester City, but there is still a slim chance that I could get a trophy off Glory Hunter here. And that is actually our first game in charge. So here is our starting lineup. Mbappe leading the line with Bruno Fernandes in the shadow strike role and Sancho and Rashford either side. Ricci and Tonali in midfield, Hernandez left back, Pedro Porro right back, and Varane and Eric Garcia at the back with David De Gea in goal. Our bench is also really strong with Serge Gnabry, Boubacar Kamara, Dybala, and Christian Eriksen. And of course, the first scorer for us just had to be Kylian Mbappe. But Manchester City equalised through their danger man, and what a thunder bastard that was. However, in the 27th minute, Bruno Fernandes scored the winning goal, taking us into the semi-final, where of course we have drawn Liverpool. And Rafael Leao gave Liverpool the early lead, but when you have Mbappe, goals can come from nowhere. Into extra time, then Mbappe turned provider, and fullback Pedro Porro found space to knock Liverpool out of the FA Cup. To be fair, we did actually get to the final of the Copa del Rey before we left, so this is kind of fair if you ask me in my opinion. And we are against the blue side of Merseyside in the final, still managed by Frank Lampard. The next gen list is out and there's some outrageous players on that list that I need to keep on my shortlist for the rest of this series, that Turkish goalkeeper being one of them. He might be better than David De Gea. We have also stayed unbeaten since I joined the club with 4 league games and a cup final to go. 5 points between us and Liverpool is not completely out of the question for Champions League, but imagine this team in Europa League next year. 3 more wins before the final and we've jumped up to 4th place. Chelsea have a game in hand, but it's amazing for us to catch them all together. And they play Liverpool next. But it's FA Cup final time, so let's focus first. Things started perfectly and Bruno Fernandes fired in a great volley. Kylian Mbappe doubled our lead in the second half. Everton then got one back through a penalty and then proceeded to gift us with a third. They had another penalty late on, but Manchester United have lifted the FA Cup. I've only been here 2 months and that's another trophy ticked off of Glory Hunter. Chelsea and Liverpool draw, so both can win and we stay in 5th, which actually might not be a bad thing with Europa League. We actually drew the last game of the season too, but it wouldn't have mattered anyway as both Chelsea and Liverpool won. Europa League it is. And our budget is only set for £55 million. My main aim is a goalkeeper and I think Robert Sanchez is our man. Good price, very good attributes and looks far better than David De Gea in all departments outside of shot stopping. Deal done, nice and easy for £22 million after some add-ons. United could learn from that type of efficiency. In case you were wondering, Diego Simeone took over at Atletico after me. Now, while that was all happening, the World Cup happened and England beat Australia in the final. Our first game of the season is Manchester City in the Community Shield. And we have a new signing to introduce in Jules Koundé starting centre-back next to Eric Garcia. £50 million from Sevilla I think is a great price. He is a world-class centre-back in my opinion. 2-2 after extra time with City down to 10 men when Erling Haaland was sent off. They take the win on penalties though. Our opening game of the league season came at Old Trafford against Everton and Kylian Mbappe kicked things off with a flyer picking up a first half hat-trick to really jumpstart our season as we aim for some trophies. Samuel Ricci ended the scoring with a 4-0 domination with a scorcher from outside of the box. However, brought back down to earth right after with a loss to Newcastle. Our Europa League group seems pretty simple too, but the next game against Arsenal, Bruno missed another penalty. Luckily for him, we had a grand total of 26 shots at Arsenal's goal with 15 on target. And yeah, Aaron Ramsdale's a good goalkeeper and finished on a 7.7 rating, but he still conceded 5 goals. And unfortunately for Arsenal, they barely had any shots and couldn't score one. Mbappe enjoyed this game even more, picking up another hat-trick once again. Deadline day closes and we secured another player. £15 million for Caicedo from Brighton. Quality midfielder. We head into the first Manchester derby in the league on great form. Things started well when right back Pedro Porro gave us the lead 5 minutes in. Both teams were missing starting players though, including Ricci, Rashford and Haaland for City. But new signing João Felix played Foden in for the equaliser, and in the second half an unbelievable shot cannoned off the bar and was tapped in by Yeremy Pino. 6 games played and 2 losses already is not fantastic. October in the league began hosting Chelsea, and a beautiful pass from Fernandes found Gnabry for the opener. Ben Chilwell of Chelsea did equalise a couple of minutes later however, but second half and with 2 goals in as many minutes, Kylian Mbappe was once again the difference maker in this match, taking all 3 points from Manchester United. Unfortunately, that was our only win of the month in the Premier League though, and that dropped us down to 8th place. Meaning the next time we graced the grass of the Premier League, we needed to be ruthless, and that's exactly what we did against Wolves. Serge Gnabry getting on the score sheet twice early doors, putting us 2-0 up. Mbappe then breaking through and chipping the goalkeeper for a third. Gnabry getting his hat-trick in the second half, and the perfect 5-star performance was topped off with a long-range shot from Ricci arrowed into the bottom corner. And the tone was set for the rest of the month as we won all 5 encounters with 4 clean sheets. And that run ended in the first game of December when West Ham scored late on. Thankfully, the rest of the month was superb and even hosting Liverpool despite going 1-0 down in the second minute. We took control and took the lead through Kylian Mbappe. Demiral extended the lead in the second half, and Curtis Jones could only get a consolation in stoppage time to give us the 3-2 win. Great month despite the start with a loss to West Ham, but how do we look in the league? Well, we are 9 points behind Manchester City, but played a game less, and we've topped our Europa League group as expected, and we even made it to the Carabao Cup semi-final and are easily the strongest team left in this competition. And a big win against Spurs and points gained on both City and Chelsea, who both failed to win. Another month of wins, the only draw coming in the first leg of the EFL Cup, and we knocked them out in the second leg. And some of you with eagle-eyed vision would have spotted something as well. We are the current Premier League leaders. And that's thanks to City having an awful time in January. Our February ended our long unbeaten run, however. Despite Mbappe giving us the very early lead, Liverpool destroyed us after Bruno Fernandes was sent off after 15 minutes. Giving us way too much to do at Anfield, and unfortunately, Mohamed Salah, he scored a hat-trick, and we lost the game 4-1, and that dropped us back down to second place. It is cup final time though, and although this trophy means nothing in Glory Hunter terms, I still want to win it. Mbappe's pace was what created the first goal yet again, and a minute later, Pedro Porro finds himself in space to score a second. Jadon Sancho got a third halfway through, and Matty Cash got one back for Villa, but it was too late. 3-1 winners. And we lift the EFL League Cup. But our focus immediately shifts to Napoli, who we've drawn in the Europa League. And the first leg was very tight indeed. The second leg was very similar, just with a lot more goals. Mbappe opened the scoring once again, but soon after, Napoli had equalised. We got a second goal 10 minutes later, and that's when we began pushing forward with a third. And then a fourth. Second half, and Napoli scored 2 goals through Hirving Lozano to make it 4-3. But luckily, Pedro Porro scored our 5th and final goal of the game. He keeps popping up. Our month ended badly though when Liverpool knocked us out of the FA Cup. But of course, it's a cup competition we've already claimed for Glory Hunter, so it's not all bad. We are top of the league again by a point, and we're still in the quarterfinals of Europa League. The month changed to April, but one thing that didn't change was Mbappe's form. In this 7-3 victory against West Ham, he scored 4 goals, and as you can see, 3 of them in the first half. 5 minutes in between, or 3, from the 21st to the 26th minute, and they're all very similar goals, using his unbelievable pace. And his 4th, he just levered into the net emphatically. First leg against Leipzig in Europa League, and Nkunku bagged early on at Old Trafford. Julian Rijkaard equalised shortly after, but there was only one man who could step up, and of course, that was Kylian Mbappe, who scored another 2 beautiful goals where he was just faster than everybody else, breaking through and slotting in to hand us a 3-1 advantage going into the second leg. And we held on just about going into the second leg, losing 1-0, winning of course on aggregate. Back to the league, and our form has been good, but with City and Arsenal coming up, it's make or break time. In Europa League then, we fought behind in the semi-final tie against Real Sociedad away from home. Arsenal at the Emirates, and Rashford opens the scoring. Sanchez does a howler and allows them to equalise, but very late on, Mbappe scores what we think is the winner. But no. Dahoud in the 90th minute equalises for Arsenal, and the game finishes 2-2, and that could honestly cost us the league. It's Real Sociedad's second leg time, and it's time to put us in the final of Europa League. I'm also seeing the irony, by the way, that I am Manchester United fighting to win the Europa League with, in real life, Manchester United in Europa League, which is quite a funny joke for you guys. It's not for me. But it's Manchester City next, and it's second versus third. And that's because Liverpool have played 2 more games than us and won both of them, so we cannot afford to drop any points. Fortunately, I'm thinking we may be waiting another season for the Premier League as we fall 3-1 to City. However, Liverpool have won the league and City actually finished 4th behind us. Chelsea popped up from nowhere and Mbappe has scored 43 league goals. That's massive. But here we are, Europa League time, and Hertha Berlin is our opponents. So this is the lineup I'm going to go with. Rashford is the only first team name missing, but really Serge Gnabry is a fantastic replacement. And we came firing out the blocks when Jadon Sancho opened the scoring after just 4 minutes. Kylian Mbappe hated that, given that he likes to always get the opening goal, and he scored straight after. A third came soon after when Pedro Porro found space yet again, and we are 4-0 up in 25 minutes, but Mbappe got his second. Hertha Berlin finally had an attempt on goal and scored to make it 4-1, but we scored a 5th right before half-time. Ali Akman made it 5-2 in the second half, but it was already too late, and the man who kicked things off scored the final goal to make it 6-2 and crown us Europa League champions. And yes, another trophy ticked off of Glory Hunter, and honestly, one of the more tricky ones that I expected to complete too. Also, it's hilarious that Vincent Kompany's job could be coming to an end at Manchester City. But 2 trophies this season and the FA Cup last year means that 2 more trophies are ticked off our list, and we're only 6 seasons in. See you in the next one. In Season 6, we won the Europa League, as well as the FA Cup the season before, and that's now 5 trophies ticked off in total for Glory Hunter. So let's see what happened in the other 4 leagues. Real Madrid won La Liga by 6 points, our former team Atletico Madrid finished in 2nd place, and their regen had 16 goals and 14 assists in the league. And he does look amazing, by the way. An unbeaten PSG won the French league, but with 12 draws in total, and that reminds me of the Arsenal's Invincibles team. Inter Milan are the new kings of Italy right now. Bayern Munich win the German Bundesliga, and 63% of you haven't subscribed yet. So we need to change that then, please. And Manchester City win the Champions League, which shocks me because they've just sacked their manager, Vincent Kompany. We only have £30 million in the budget and losing both Varane and Dybala. It looks like the Glazers actually left. They never actually sold Manchester United, but now we just don't supply any money at all. Ideal, that is. Looking at our best 11, I'd say the areas we could improve is on the left-hand side, both left back and left wing. And my scouts have found the perfect left winger for me, but he will cost a lot of money from Leipzig. And I'd like to maybe bring in Nuno Mendes at left back if I could. Less money than the left winger, but we can't afford either right now. So I start off by selling Rijkaard for £25 million to AC Milan. Although Dortmund get a huge chunk of that and only £6 million is added to the budget. What an epic fail. Mason Mount is then trying to persuade Tonali to join him at Chelsea. Jog on, mate. Real Madrid then bid £45 million for Hernandez, who's 31. And we sell him, but again, only £17 million is added to the budget. I try and go for Nuno Mendes, and they absolutely try to take the mick with what they are asking for. £90 million is way more than I'm willing to pay, so I guess I need to start looking elsewhere. I've also decided to accept a bid for Serge Gnabry from Juve because it will give me enough money for potentially a good left winger. Now that all the players have left and we have a great budget to work with, let's see what we can do. I got an offer accepted for Secretario for around £90 million, and it is a huge amount of my budget. Yes, he is world class though. I'm just still not sure where we should go through with it. So I actually bid for another 3 players instead. Let's see what happens with that. Manchester City, by the way, have a new manager, and it's Brendan Rodgers, which has left the Juventus job available yet again. This time though, I think we're in a better position with Manchester United than what we were with Atletico Madrid, so I don't think I'm going to apply this time round. Our first signing is Marc Cucurella, who solves our left-back problem for £45 million. He is a quality defender with amazing mental attributes and a good pass on him too. I'm also very aware that that's like the 3rd Brighton player out of 4 players that I've signed for Manchester United so far, but there we go. 2 more signings are arriving as we sign Bosnian regen Dedic, who is going to be a quality squad player for us at only £6 million. And the Serge Gnabry replacement Moise Kean, who I dare say is probably better than Serge, for £37 million. Another world-class arrival, Milinkovic-Savic from Lazio again, for £37 million. He might be 32 now, but it's what it could be to take us from third in the league to title winners, in my opinion. I'm also noticing Demiral keeps getting the highest training rating every single week, so I think that deserves a reward. A start against Manchester City in the Super Cup. And there he is alongside Eric Garcia. SMS also starts in midfield and Cucurella at left back with Moise Kean sat on the bench. The game finished 0-0 and Manchester City won on penalties. Never mind. But a 3-2 loss to Everton on the opening day of the Premier League, and the Arsenal game is up next, and this is kind of already a must-win for us. So against Arsenal, it's Koundé and Garcia again at the back, and a debut start for Moise Kean on the left, and Rashford drops to the bench. Arsenal also lost their first game, and we slammed them down to 20th place in the league when Mbappe scored the opener. Bruno Fernandes then picked up a second just before half-time. In the second half, Mbappe was masterful in the box and found Sancho for our third. Back in business in the next game with a 7-1 win against Newcastle and another Mbappe hat-trick. After a 4-4 draw with West Ham where Mbappe was invisible and only got a 6.3 up top. So I punished him and I dropped him and played 21-year-old Dedic, who we've just bought again for £6 million. He scored his first in the first minute, his second in the 11th, and he secured a hat-trick by the 18th minute. And just to really stamp his name, he got a fourth in the second half. And it wasn't a fluke because the next game he got a hat-trick against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. 2 wins in the Champions League and 1 in the EFL Cup, and we had a pretty good month. Bruno Fernandes puts us in the lead in the Manchester derby, but Erling Haaland equalised late. However, from a corner, Bosnian Dedic popped up and scored the winner in his first Manchester derby. What a hero. We then did suffer back-to-back losses when we got beat at home to Leipzig and Aston Villa. That's not great. An 82nd minute own goal by Dalot and Dani Olmo finish meant we suffered another defeat at the hands of Leipzig. Dedic's movement is exceptional, and yet again he scores not 1 goal, but 2 in the Premier League. And he took that form into the Champions League as we travelled to Portugal against Porto. A very entertaining 6-4 victory where a young Dedic picked up 4 goals, and the build-up play for the fourth especially was beautiful. What a performance. Another great month in the league, and hopefully we can still qualify in the Champions League. We currently sit top of the league by 4 points ahead of City and Everton. Liverpool have been very poor though, but our Champions League group, we do look likely to finish in second place, which is not fantastic. It's also the end of November, so lots of jobs are starting to pop up. We finished second in our group after beating Copenhagen with Dedic getting both goals. We finally lose the league when Trossard scores the only goal of the game against Brighton. But then a 4-1 win against Spurs. And a 5-1 win against Liverpool with yet again another 2 goals from Dedic, and we are back to our best. In what turned out to be a difficult month, ending with a draw in the Manchester derby at the Etihad. A great month for the club when Dedic won FIFA Under-21 Player of the Year. Absolutely incredible. Mbappe, however, he won the Ballon d'Or. But it's Dedic who is our top scorer with 23 goals in only 14 starts. And how did Mbappe react to this, you ask? Well, he went out at Old Trafford, probably held the Ballon d'Or aloft in front of the crowd before the game, then proceeded to absolutely demolish Southampton's defence, scoring 4 goals in a 6-2 victory. Other than the EFL exit, January was brilliant, ending in a 2-1 win against Arsenal with our boys scoring goals. And we are now 9 points clear in the league with Real Madrid to play in the Champions League. In the first and the home leg of the tie, Mbappe opened the scoring. Ruben Neves equalised from the spot, but Rames Dedic got the winner yet again, and of course he did from the right-hand side. However, the whole month wasn't too great when Liverpool smashed us 5-1 at Anfield. A draw though against Leicester, and just like that, our 9 points ahead is reduced to 4. The same result happened at the Bernabeu, but Rashford picked up the 2 goals and Neves got another penalty. Inter Milan next, and still 4 points ahead in the league with 8 games to go. The first leg in Milan, and Inter Milan pinch a winner in the 91st minute. But they could not handle the high press at Old Trafford, and we scored 2 outrageous goals, pinning Inter Milan in their box to win the quarter-final tie 3-2 on aggregate, where we will face Zinedine Zidane's Bayern Munich team. A 3-0 win against Brentford in the league and a 3-1 win at Swansea meant that we pushed closer to the title. A 4-1 win against Wolves, and we were a Manchester City slip-up away from winning the Premier League. We then beat West Ham 3-0 at home, but Manchester City also won their game as well, beating Brentford 2-1 after being 1-0 down and scoring in the 89th minute to keep them in it. However, we could not break down Newcastle's 3 at the back, and we bottled winning the league at St James's Park. Or so we thought. Ivan Toney equalised against Manchester City in the 86th minute, and the game finished 2-2, meaning that we are crowned Premier League champions, adding another trophy to the Glory Hunter cabinet. And it means we can rest our crucial players for the cup games coming up. Because after beating Blackburn in the semi-final 4-0, we are also in the FA Cup final against Leicester, which also means the Sir Alex Ferguson treble of the FA Cup, the Premier League and the Champions League, that's still on the cards. However, it did take a knock right after when we played Bayern Munich in the semi-final first leg. We took the lead in the first half and Bayern shortly equalised. No panic though, we took the lead yet again, but Karim Adeyemi scored again. And then my former player at Borussia Dortmund, Adeyemi, then scored his hat-trick from the spot, 3-2. And then add another former Dortmund player of mine, Moukoko, who scored to make it 4-2. And finally, Jamal Musiala scored really late, and we left Munich 5-2 down. Second leg, and we go with our strongest team available. Goalkeeper Sanchez is out of a concussion. Cucurella has just recovered from a broken leg, which he's been out for about 5 months from now. And Dedic, he's also injured for this match. And it took until the second half, but Jadon Sancho scored almost from kickoff. Fortunately, Bruno Fernandes was rash and he received a straight red card, making our task even more tricky. However, even though we were down to 10 men, it didn't stop Jadon Sancho from getting yet another goal and putting us just one away from sending us into extra time. But Bayern Munich held on despite us having 15 shots on target to hold it at 2-0, and we were eliminated from the competition. 3 more wins, including the hat-trick from Youth Academy prospect Gary Perkins against West Brom. Just like that, it's FA Cup final time, and with Sancho only good enough for the bench, Mbappe slots on the right, and Dedic takes his place up front. Damsgaard was the guy to open the scoring from a well-worked goal. We then equalised when Bruno Fernandes put Rashford through on goal. Delot's cross was then met by an unreal header by SMS, but unfortunately Damsgaard scored another to tie the final 2-2. But it did not stay at Desmond. In the 90th minute, Dedic headed the ball across the goal and Pedro Porro was there to score the winner. And the board are buzzing with that performance. That second FA Cup win in the Premier League adds to my reputation and increases to 4.5 stars out of 5. But where do we go from here? Do we stay in the Premier League despite already ticking it off and try and potentially win the Champions League, or do we look to move on? Because there's a certain job that's just popped up. Inter Milan in the Serie A. We won the Premier League, taking off 3 trophies with Manchester United and Kylian Mbappe. Now we could stay and go for the Champions League, but the Inter Milan job is available. They finished 6th this year, but won the league the seasons before that. Real Madrid won the league in Spain, by the way. Leipzig somehow won the Bundesliga, but PSG win the league again in France. Now, I absolutely love these players and this team, and I genuinely think I could go for the Champions League next season with them. But the chance to switch to Italy this quickly and with a decent team, might I add, would be kind of too good to turn down, so I'm going to apply. We don't have a lot of money to improve this team either, and Bruno Fernandes is leaving to PSG as he refused to sign a new deal. The Champions League final is being played out by Napoli and Bayern Munich, and was won in a very entertaining final by Zidane's Bayern Munich. I asked the board to increase the transfer revenue percentage, and it was rejected. We've just won the league, and it still sits at 40%. Awful. So I'll be rejecting offers like this £70 million bid for substitutes. So it's the Inter Milan interview time, and telling them that of course I can learn the language and I can adapt to this new country. They praised me for my recent success and asked why I want to leave. And then the big question that I was so intrigued to know, transfer budget. Yes, yes, and yes, that is fantastic. My mind is made up now. I think this move is the best option for Glory Hunter. Another good sign as Inter Milan asked me to decide my backroom changes. And there we go. Inter Milan approach Omega Luke, a 3-year contract on just under 80,000 a week, Of course, I accepted the deal with tears in my eyes, leaving my favourite club, and just like that, FC Internazionale Milano hire Luke. This team is good enough to win the league in the first season too, by the way, no doubt about it in my opinion. And that screen didn't even show you that we still have Lautaro Martinez. We also had a transfer incoming that was confirmed before my arrival. 25-year-old Croatian that I'm more than happy to welcome to the club. Not a single attribute under 11. I then negotiated with Leicester to sell Luka Jovic for over 30 million to add more to our transfer budget. I was then looking around the leagues to try and find who's got what and who's best players, and I found this guy. At Torino, he's 6'8" with 15 agility. This guy should be in the NBA. I then got a bid accepted for Secretario. Remember him? Yeah, he's probably the best player in the world right now, and he's only about to turn the age of 22. But trying to offer him a contract, I had that weird glitch that keeps happening. Have you ever had that weird glitch where you try and negotiate terms, and then at the start it says like, no, you can't go any further, but there's no clauses to add, and he's not adding any clauses, it just keeps rejecting it, and eventually you can't sign it. It's just so weird and annoying. Fratesi, though, is the perfect target for us. He's a fantastic talent, he's in his prime, and yet I can negotiate an offer for just over £30 million. And we got that deal done really fast. I sold Jonathan Akone to Manchester United for a total of £35 million. And I then spent £73 million on Jurrien Timber from Ajax. Also brought a player from AC Milan, a 21-year-old with great potential, perfectionist personality, and an unbelievable physical attributes for just £46 million. Shocking, really. Tactically, we're going to go with a narrow diamond formation as our midfield is phenomenal, and we have two world-class strikers. And I found a fantastic striker to help the squad with a £20 million release clause. Oh, by the way, guess who the new Manchester United manager is? Zinedine Zidane. So who replaced him? Pep Guardiola, who left Chelsea, who are still looking for a replacement with Villa and Newcastle. The £20 million signing Ordren is now our player and is a perfect squad striker to rotate in and out. First game of the league season, and we start with Martinez and Lukaku up top and Diaz in behind. Fratesi and Barella is an unreal midfield and Weigl in behind them. Bastoni and Skriniar is flanked by Dodo and Timber with Onana in goal. And Luis Diaz was phenomenal. Lecce actually took the lead and this was what kicked us into gear, and Luis Diaz scored a rocket. And then in the second half he scored a tap-in. In fact, he scored 2 tap-ins. Lecce scored another, but we were just simply too good, and with some great build-up play, Martinez scored a 4th, and then he scored a 5th. And finally, Lecce scored a 3rd, and this game ended in a Serie A classic, 5-3. The following was our first test of the season against Juventus, a game in which we won despite being 1-0 down, coming back through Lukaku and winning when David Fratesi found space for the cross. So we're currently second, which is great, and our Europa League group looks pretty simple. And the manager merry-go-round continues as both Milan and Napoli are now searching because their managers were picked up by Chelsea and Newcastle. We move forward a couple of months because we are absolutely destroying teams and we aren't playing anyone too tough in this period, but some of these results are mental. For instance, in this 7-1 win against Fiorentina, where the first 3 goals of the game was all scored by the 35-year-old Lukaku, and quite simply, he was unplayable in this game. Ordren then came on and scored a wonderful free kick. Lukaku then scored 5 in the next game, a 9-0 win against Sassuolo. By no means a bad team in the league, they currently actually sit in 8th place, so beating them 9-0 is absolutely mental, and it just shows how strong this team really is. And Lukaku, well, let's just take a look at him. Still quick, still really strong, and the mental attributes are awesome. 13 goals in 8 games so far. When we actually face tough opposition, we still wipe the floor with them, at their stadium too. And our first Milan derby was won in the 68th minute, when we scored the only goal of the game, which means we literally have not dropped any league points, and it's the middle of November. 12 matches, 12 wins so far. The Serie A could actually be quite a quick win for Glory Hunter. We are even putting in 10-0 wins in the Europa League. 4 more games in December and it's 4 more wins for Inter Milan. Atalanta coming closest in a 2-1 win, but we still went 2 goals up really quickly when Barella and Lukaku scored, but Atalanta got one back for a Bastoni own goal. As we move into January, I always check the end of contracts to see if we can find a quality player. SMS being an option that we can approach right now, but Joshua Kimmich could be. So I offered him a contract for £300,000 per week, and he will be perfect for that halfback role. It's only the Italian Super Cup, but it's another Milan derby and another match where Lukaku scored multiple goals, making our city rivals, and remember, the champions of Italy, look terrible, demolishing them 4-0. Kimmich turned me down though and extended his contract with City. And then we faced 2 tricky fixtures and another 2 big wins, 4-1 against Roma and a 5-0 against Juventus. We are without a goalkeeper. I'm playing an 18-year-old and he is terrible, by the way. And I'm honestly lost for words on how we are still doing this in the Serie A. We are making it look easy. No Lukaku either, he's ill and it literally doesn't matter. We are simply unstoppable right now. And Juve, they only had 1 shot, by the way. 1 shot in 90 minutes. Well, Zinedine Zidane was sacked by Manchester United already. How can you be down in 8th, by the way, with that team? I also noticed that PSG are 2nd behind Lyon by 8 points. That might not happen again in the next 12 years, so we need to keep an eye on it. Deadline day, and Leipzig came in with a £23 million upfront bid for Tobias, our backup right back. He's adamant he wants to leave, so I bumped it up to 30, and they actually accepted. And my replacement is £4.3 million Caligari on 20k a week. The 25th of February. That is the first league game that we didn't win, as in we had 24 wins from 24 games. We also knocked Lazio out of the Coppa Italia and advanced to the semi-final with a 3-1 victory with 3 different goal scorers. And we've been drawn against AC Milan in the semi-final, but it's Barcelona up next in Europa League, a tough draw against the current La Liga winners. We went to Barcelona though and came away with a 3-1 lead. Klopp, by the way, he's the new Manchester United manager. He's gone from Liverpool to Spurs, Germany manager, Arsenal, and now Manchester United. Second leg hosting Barcelona, and yet again we look like we are playing an amateur club. Lukaku with that beautiful chip to start things off, but after a tap-in and his hat-trick, an easy 6-1 aggregate win. Before we face AC Milan in the cup semi-final, we have just won our 28th out of 29th game and 24 points clear in the league, meaning that if my maths is correct, we need just 1 more win for the Scudetto. A lot of injuries and international call-ups. We have a crisis for the Milan semi-final. After picking the team, I have 1 first-team player on the bench and a number of youth academy players. Yikes. We still won 5-2 though, and the player we bought from Milan scored 2 and assisted 1. Amazing. And then I realized the most beautiful thing ever. We could win the Scudetto in the next match against the current champions, AC Milan. Milan did their best though to delay our celebration, scoring the first goal. But when Lukaku played a 1-2 with Javi Galan, they simply couldn't stop him. He then picked up a second in the 82nd minute and then crowned us champions with a hat-trick as the club captain in injury time. And just like that, we win the Scudetto the first time of asking, without losing a game. So with the league wrapped up and the second leg of the Coppa Italia to come, we look to the Europa League against West Ham. First leg was made easy when Souček got a straight red in the first minute. Luis Diaz gave us the lead in the second leg, but West Ham shortly after equalised. But with some beautiful play down the left-hand side, the ball was cut back to Frattesi, who curled the winner into the bottom corner. Through every month this season, we have never picked up a loss. We rarely draw either, only picking up 1 in Europa League and 1 in the league. But the 15th of April, we tasted defeat for the first time at the hands of Atalanta with 3 fairly late goals. Second leg in the Coppa Italia, and we progressed through to the final after our 8-5 win on aggregate, although we did give away a 3-0 lead to draw 3-3 on the night. Newcastle in Europa League semi-final and Napoli in the Coppa Italia final. And Newcastle handed us our second loss of the season in the first leg. Timber picks up an injury and is going to miss the remainder of the season in a 5-0 league win against Hellas Verona. Second leg time then, and it wasn't until after half-time where we opened the scoring through Lukaku. Bastoni tied the score on aggregate with Newcastle, but we kept scoring goals. Martinez then put us ahead. Lukaku gave us some breathing room with his second goal, and Romero put us out of reach and into the final. Speaking of finals, it's Coppa Italia final time. Our opportunity to complete Italy in 1 season of Glory Hunter took an early knock when Calvert-Lewin got the opener. But then things looked up when Latomba got sent off in the 23rd minute. However, our captain Romelu Lukaku, doing his defensive duties, lunged in and injured himself and his opponent. Quite hilariously too, might I add. And shortly following this was another DCL goal. Second half, Bastoni pulled one back to get us back in the game. 3 minutes later, DCL closed the game off and bagged his hat-trick, winning the Coppa Italia for Napoli. We ended the season in second gear, saving ourselves hopefully for the Europa League final. And then I saw it. The PSG job became available. Why couldn't I have just won that Coppa Italia? But let's not think about that now. We have a Europa League final to win, and this is the team to do it against Leicester. Timber gave us the lead in just the 3rd minute with an unreal shot in the top corner. Lukaku doubled that lead with a rebound. Leicester got one back from a set piece, and former Inter Milan player Luka Jovic scored the equaliser. But in the 92nd minute, Daniel Malin fired in what Leicester hoped to be lifting the trophy for them. But a hero in the Inter Milan shirt, Luca Romero, scored in the 94th minute to take it to extra time, where our captain Romelu Lukaku scored the winner in the 109th minute. And we lift the Europa League trophy once again in Glory Hunter. Lukaku actually picked up 45 goals this season in just 41 games, and both Audren and Martinez came close to 30 goals themselves. So I would say that is a successful season. But then, oh, hello, a PSG interview. Last season, I moved to Inter Milan, leaving Mbappe and Dedic in Manchester. And we almost completed Italy in just one season. We won the league, the Europa League, for the 2nd time, but we lost in the final of the Coppa Italia. We didn't even lose a match until April either in any competition. But of course, we had an approach from Paris Saint-Germain. And so we have another job interview, one that I wasn't sure I'd ever have the chance to get in Glory Hunter, but alas, we get the questions of the new language and adapting to a different country, and on to more pressing concerns. Yes, I can win the title for you, but oh, a transfer budget of just £45 million is a lot less than I expected in all honesty. But hopefully, this team is already good enough to win things. Mariba, Gvardiol, and Declan Rice being their headliners. I genuinely think that they are just missing a world-class striker, maybe with Piccoli, Edouard and Scamacca as the main options there it seems. They finished in 2nd last season to Lyon and lost the cup, but let's take a look around the other leagues. Chelsea won the league, and the United team I won the league with the season before finished in 6th place. Bayern Munich reclaimed the Bundesliga after a year away from holding the title. Real Madrid won La Liga in a very close title race. And 61% of you watching are yet to subscribe. And also, while we're at it, can I ask you for a favour? Drop us a follow on Twitter, Instagram and TikTok. Just search Omega Luke and you'll find me. And here we go. PSG approach Omega Luke. It's a 3-year deal again. We accept the offer and move to our new office in Paris as Paris Saint-Germain FC hire Luke. Turns out I can alter the slider quite a bit to double our budget so we can bring in some bigger hitters. And half of our team are wanted by other clubs too. My first target is Audren from Inter Milan, who wants to join us because of his admiration of me. How cute. £61 million deal was accepted and completed. Great signing. I thought he was fantastic last season. At times, he actually kept Martinez out of the team, so he will be my go-to striker this season. We also beat our former club, Manchester United, in the Club World Cup semi-final. And we faced Real Madrid in the final. We then signed a 21-year-old centre-back from Aston Villa for £69 million, who I'd say is a world-class ball-playing centre-back. Fortunately, we do lose the Club World Cup final on penalties to Real Madrid. The Trophy de Champions against Lyon, who won the league last season, and they take the lead here through Elmas. However, Declan Rice picked up the ball and scored a scorcher into the top corner, and the game was won when Nicolas Audren scored in the 88th minute. And the first game of the season, we start strong with a 4-0 away win to Lens, with Audren scoring another 2. The tactic, by the way, is very similar to the tactic we used at Manchester United with a few little subtle changes. And so far, it's took us to 3 league wins out of 3. Deadline day, and we sold Cole Palmer back to the Premier League, giving us £60 million to play around with. And we brought in Marchand from Lens, a young French attacking midfielder. My plan is to play him from the left-hand side, as Lamar and Jota are both in their 30s and have declined in certain attributes. Good job, really, because Lamar has just broke his leg as well. After beating Saint Etienne comfortably, it's time to face the current champions, Lyon. We took the lead through Audren in the 22nd minute. Lyon equalised not long after through their winger Carême, but Audren fired back with a brace in the second half, but 1 minute later, centre-back Salama equalised, and that was the final goal of the game. Our Champions League group, by the way, take a look at this. Both former clubs, Inter Milan and Atletico Madrid. Brilliant. And Marchand gets his first start against Atletico at home. A game in which we dominated 4-0, only giving them 3 shots to our 37. A 6-0, a 3-2 and a 5-2, and we continue our unbeaten run this season and top in the league. Back to business with us missing Audren up front and having to play Rice at centre-back against our other former club. I wasn't too optimistic, however Jota putting us level on the 20th minute was great, but yet again Martinez picked up a goal and sent us back to Paris with my first loss as PSG's manager. We also drew to Rennes, which wasn't great either. Into Milan next though. With Audren still not fit, Jota starts up top again, but Rice starts in midfield when Gvardiol returns. Great start too, and Mariba put us ahead. Diogo Jota then scored a second 3 minutes later. And from Bruno Fernandes' free kick, Gvardiol tapped it a third. All Inter Milan could do was pick up a consolation goal late. We continue to pick up weird results like this draw against Auxerre, but another 2 wins followed. And we are top of the league, unbeaten by 2 points, and top of the Champions League and already qualified with just Atletico Madrid to play. Rice opened the score in the following game against Nantes, and Audren scored the second in a 2-0 win. We continued winning around the Christmas period and even began our journey in the Coupe de France. Rennes was our next opponents in the cup, and Marchand opened the scoring, followed by an outrageous trip by Mariba, and topped off with a third in a 3-0 win by Audren. Former player Luis Diaz at Inter Milan was out of contract this summer, so I signed him on the off chance that I'm here longer than 1 season. We followed that with a 6-1 win against Monaco with 6 different goal scorers, and 2 more wins without conceding a goal, which now took us 9 points clear of Lyon, and we've now been drawn against Newcastle in the Champions League. Back to the cup, and after a win against Toulouse, we face Nice in the quarterfinals, winning the tie with 2 goals from Audren and Marquinhos. And we followed that win against the second place Lyon, and straight into the Champions League first round, first leg. Mariba picked up the first 2 goals and Audren scored a third, and we go into the second leg 3-0 up. Semi-final of the cup time, and we knock Marseille out with a 93rd minute rocket from Audren, who is quickly turning out to be our player of the season. And a 1-1 draw against Newcastle, and we progress to the quarters of the Champions League. Other than the 0-0 draw with Nice, we're on for a very good month in the league too, and Audren picking up 4 goals against Troyes. The Frenchman has 43 goals in total this season and 33 in the league alone so far in just 23 games. But we do have Barcelona next in the Champions League and Angers in the French Cup final. With Hakimi suspended, Crooks takes his spot on the right, and Marchand drops down to the bench with fitness concern, but this is still a good team to start against La Liga leaders Barcelona. And to be honest, I have no words or explanation for what we did to Barcelona. Audren picked up a hat-trick in the first half, opening the scoring, smashing it into the top corner after 2 minutes. We were simply relentless. Even centre-back Crooks, playing on the right-hand side, got in on the act too with a lovely finish. Our boot was firmly on the throat of Barcelona the whole game, never letting them out of their half. We were 6-0 up by half-time, by the way. An absolute outstanding performance from the Parisians. And it made the second leg a walk for us. 8-1 win on aggregate. However, we did pick up our first loss in the league this season at home in a 3-2 defeat, and with Manchester City next to play in the semi-final of the Champions League. But it didn't stop us from controlling the game though. Diogo Jota opened the score in 13 minutes in. On the half-hour mark, he was then played in again, and he chipped Ederson. Great play by Rice to find Gvardiol, who cut it back for Bruno Fernandes, and the game finished 3-0. And we seen them off with another second leg draw, meaning for the first time this series, we find ourselves in the Champions League final. But before that though, we host Marseille in the league and we score within 45 seconds. Hannibal from the left then made it 2 in 5 minutes, and Diogo Jota got a third 9 minutes into the game. Game was won. And with just 1 more win needed, we took the lead within a minute again. Got 2 by 10 minutes and put the game out of reach by the 21st minute, picking up our first trophy in France. No surprises, we win the French league and ticking off 1 of 3 trophies we are targeting at the end of this season, with the French Cup final up next. Audren returns up top, but we still miss Hakimi and Marchand from the starting 11. It also brought a smile to my face when I seen the Inter Milan job as very insecure, because if we win this cup final, we could return a season later and go for the Coppa Italia, which we are still yet to win. So we needed to make sure that we win in this cup final, and things started off great when Adrian scored. He picked up a second not long after. And when Bruno Fernandes picked up a third before half-time, I knew it was ours. Adrian capped off the cup final with a hat-trick in the second half, 4-0 win. The French Cup now ticked off with Glory Hunter as well. Champions League is a different beast though, because we find ourselves against Pep Guardiola's Bayern Munich, and my former player, Youssoufa Moukoko. And with Hakimi back to full fitness, he returns to the starting lineup, so we are almost at full strength. But after a stalemate first half, Diogo Jota was once again the man to open the scoring. But from absolutely nowhere, Dobson, an English regen, smashed in a free kick to equalise. But when Nuno Mendes brought the player down and already on a yellow card, the referee produced a second yellow and sent him for an early bath. Luckily, it was just outside of the box. But that man Dobson stepped up again, and he fired it into the other top corner. And unfortunately, that is where our luck ran out in the final of the Champions League. So what do you think we should do next? Let me know down in the comments. Our first Champions League final ended in defeat thanks to 2 free kicks. Still a good season though, winning the league and the French Cup. And our Glory Hunter bingo card is looking good with only 3 trophies left to tick off. So, what happens next? The team is great, yes, but staying here means we only focus on 1 trophy and there's currently no clubs available to join. So I think resigning from my role could produce a manager merry-go-round like a couple of seasons back. Let's look around the leagues. Jurgen Klopp got Manchester United back to winning the league, with Mbappe playing an outstanding year. AC Milan came back and won the league against our former club Inter, but despite winning the Champions League, Bayern Munich only won the Bundesliga by a point. Barcelona absolutely walked La Liga, winning by 12 points. And 60% of you watching have yet to subscribe. Former player Beto signed for another former club, which I thought was kinda cool. But my plan did backfire when PSG hired Dumont from Monaco. I was hoping for someone at a bigger club. However, it is a World Cup year and 5 countries are already approaching me for a job. Now, I'm not really tempted to take one because I don't really enjoy international management, hence the reason why we're not doing it on Glory Hunter, but it does mean that 5 new managers will be appointed. Because look how many jobs are available right now. Skipping forward a bit, 2 jobs become available right before the season. But again, 2 clubs I've researched and don't think it's a wise move. So we're going to skip forward a little bit to the beginning of November, and this is where some jobs begin to appear. And Jose Mourinho's job at Atletico is precarious. Could we return to the Metropolitano? Well, a week later, and we are favourites for the vacancy. But I didn't really fancy it. Their team is actually worse than when I left it. A week later, and more jobs appear, including Roma, which again, I am favourite for. But I feel like I'm at the point in my career now where I can be quite picky and I can only select the clubs that I really feel like will help me win stuff. My reputation is amazing and we are only halfway through our time in the challenge. Okay, so end of season 10 and United have won the league back to back. Dortmund won the league for the first time since we won with them all the way back in Season 2. Inter Milan won the league comfortably as well in the Serie A. Atletico finish in 5th place and their rivals Real walked La Liga, winning the league by 15 points. And PSG carry on dominating France. Bayer Leverkusen won the Europa League, and my incredible Inter Milan side won the Champions League. And just look how good Kaiser is now, an amazing player bought from rivals AC Milan. All the way forward to the middle of November of the 11th season now, a Manchester City job has become precarious as they sit in 8th place. And it's simply criminal that this team isn't at the top. Musiala, Haaland, Kimmich, and João Felix, just to name a few. So I'm tempted, of course, because of the Champions League. That still needs to be won, but if I take it and then the Barcelona or the Real Madrid job becomes available, I'm going to be annoyed with myself because that is ultimately 2 birds, 1 stone. So I went looking and I found this on Carlo Ancelotti's page. I noticed that he was in his 70s now and he plans to retire 2032. That's the end of this season. But also, this becomes very interesting. Juventus do have a quality team still here. Chiesa's 34 now, Locatelli's still there, and the big man Dusan Vlahovic. They just lack any squad depth, really. So I've decided I'm going to apply and I'm going to resign at the end of the season no matter what for that Real Madrid job. Interview time, and they are asking why I've been to so many clubs already. Glory hunter, mate. Media handling jargon, and I can do better than the previous manager Pochettino, obviously. But of course, we all want to know the transfer budget. £85 million is not bad at all. That's at least 2 players, possibly even 3, with that money. And here we have it. Juventus approach us on another 3-year deal with one main aim of winning the Coppa Italia. Juventus hire Luke. Now, I immediately spot 2 names on the transfer list that I want. Zaniolo from Roma. Yes, he's 32, but I'm only here for a short time, not a long time, and he is world class. The second is Badiashile, quality centre-back with a bit of pace and strength, which is something that this team is needing right now. Both players are amazing, especially Zaniolo. Coincidentally as well, we are given the cup round right away, and we've got Genoa in the 3rd round. And we've got Carlo Ancelotti's Real Madrid, who we've been drawn against in the Champions League too. Zaniolo deal complete. And the first lineup against Fiorentina, reverting back to the Inter Milan diamond. Now, our reign of the old lady Juventus didn't start the best when Saleh scored an own goal. Chiesa did pull one back immediately for us to tie the game against his former club. But then Vidovic put Fiorentina back into the lead before half-time. Thankfully though, a name I didn't expect to be getting many goals, Ben Chilwell popped up late from left-back to finish the game 2-2. Badiashile is the second player we bring in, business getting done early. And Zaniolo's first game was against the club he's played for the last 10 or more years, and we picked up the 3 points comfortably. Our first game in the cup then. We line up very attacking and we are ready to go for it. And oh boy, didn't we show up. First minute, Kulusevski scores. Dusan Vlahovic then uses his pace and fires in at the near post to make it 2. The Swede then picks up his second of the game, quickly followed by Dusan Vlahovic also scoring his second of the game. Chiesa wrapped things up with a 5th in injury time. Couple of days later, and we beat league leaders Inter Milan 3-2 after being 2-0 down with a Zaniolo 91st minute goal. And what a finish it was too. Annoyingly, that's who we've also been drawn against in the cup. But on deadline day, we brought in Oosterwolde to give us another option at left back as Chilwell is injured for 2 months. And a few more wins in the league and a draw against AC Milan, and we are still unbeaten as Juventus manager. But now it is time for that Coppa Italia quarterfinal. And from an Inter Milan attack, a little bit of vertical tiki-taka, and Dusan Vlahovic is in and scores. Second half, and a long ball nodded down, and the second ball is won by us, and once again Vlahovic is in to send Inter Milan out of the cup. However, the unsung hero of the day was Meslier, who saved 12 shots. Champions League first leg at the Allianz Stadium, and we soon find ourselves 2-0 down to Madrid through Vinicius Jr. and Barrera. Luckily though, Vlahovic got us back into the game, and substitute both of them scored within 2 minutes to equalise. But we took our first loss in the league against Napoli, but we are still in the top 4. And now it's semi-final time, first leg against Roma. Right on the stroke of half-time, Dejan Kulusevski bagged a goal to put us in front. And Federico Chiesa then doubled our lead to give us a 2-0 advantage in this leg as we head to Rome. Unfortunately though, our run in the Champions League came to a very abrupt end when we were knocked out 3-2 on aggregate by Real Madrid. Semi-final second leg, and we do have some first teamers missing. The game finished 3-2 to us, so we progressed through to the final 5-2 on aggregate. But all 3 of our goals were perfect examples of fantastic assists, with Max Aarons getting the first and the third assist, and Conor Gallagher with that beautiful pass for Zaniolo's goal. On to the final then, and we face AC Milan. But as you can see, 3 of our starting 11 are unavailable because of suspension. In fact, it's actually the 3 players that we brought in January, which is kind of ironic. So Vola then swapped out, Florentino Luis drops into the half-back role, Chilwell at left-back back from his injury, and Nelson fits in alongside Saleh at centre-back. And our narrow diamond formation simply ripped through AC Milan's 4-4-2. The forward diagonal passes was like a hot knife slicing through butter, and by the 20th minute, Vlahovic was putting the penalty in for the third. And we capped off the win when Kulusevski's half volley flew into the back of the net. And just like that, we lift the Coppa Italia, and our job in Italy is complete. Our season ended amazingly up until the loss on the very last day of the season against Roma, and we kind of exceeded all expectations and finished in 3rd place to go alongside our cup victory. So you know what time it is? Let's hand in our resignation once again. And one of the weirdest decisions I've ever seen, Brendan Rodgers leaves Manchester City to join Spurs, which now does make that job available. But of course, this is the day we are looking out for, the retirement of the great Don Carlo at Real Madrid. Arguably one of the greatest managers of all time, let's give Real Madrid a call and show our interest. After a year of being unemployed, I finally took a job at Juventus, and we targeted the Coppa Italia, whilst eyeing up the Real Madrid job after Carlo retires. And it paid off. So we resigned from Juventus, and we applied for Real Madrid. And the wait wasn't really that long. So interview time, what could be our last club? They ask why I've been around the block a bit, and I tell them I'm ready to settle down here in Madrid. Beautiful city, I loved it here before, blah blah blah. What worried me was when they asked if I can work with limited resources. This is Real Madrid. I was hoping we'd be rich by now. They then asked me if Champions League qualification was obtainable. Again, this is Real Madrid, and they're asking if they think I can finish in the top 4. But they're giving me a transfer budget of 73 million, which isn't that much really when you think about it. One good player maybe. So after that, I noticed that Arteta was the man who took the Manchester City job, by the way, in case you were wondering, leaving Borussia Dortmund. And then Galtier leaves Inter Milan from absolutely nowhere, which kind of gives me a backup plan if I don't get the Real Madrid job, because I could go for the Champions League at Inter Milan. But Real Madrid approached us to be their new manager on over 100k a week, and there we have it. Real Madrid hire Luke. There is still a good team here with some familiar faces. Peruvian striker Innocent is a good striker, but not a great one. And that 6'8" Chilean defender we looked at previously is also here too. But then I discovered that there is actually a problem here. This is the size of the squad. It's tiny, not a lot of squad depth at all, and Onana is retiring next year. This could genuinely be a rebuild. Luckily, I know just the man. Dad, how am I supposed to win home games if I barely have any players? Yep, they were founded in 1902. Yep. The white kit was supposed to be because of Spurs. Get no way. First thing I did was sell a striker we had. Now, he was okay, he had some big weaknesses, but I hated his player traits. And right away, my plan of playing Vinicius Jr. as our striker is hurt when he suffered a hip injury and will be missing the first 3 months. So let me introduce you to the new players from this Real Madrid rebuild. First off, we have Kenneth Nielsen, a Danish attacking winger that I'm kind of looking at training both centre attacking midfield and right winger too, as I see this guy coming off the bench a lot this season, but he's already looking great for a £10 million sign-in from Copenhagen. Next, we have a £26 million right winger or striker, Torsten Angel. Very aggressive, quick player who's only 23 again, and although it might be close to his peak potential, still a good player that we're picking up from Mainz. Now, here is an absolute bargain, snapped up from Mexico for £7 million. We have Kevin Olvera at left back. We only had one player in this position, so it was crucial we brought one in, and this is our guy, and his physicals are amazing. Another £7 million signing was the Czech centre-back Guidici. Again, a physical monster, and standing 6'5", he looks really good at only 20 years of age. But our biggest signing of the summer is Juan Perez from Valencia for £45 million. He's already an incredible player, and we have to win his signature over both Liverpool and Bayern Munich. As you can see, we needed this player due to the age of all of our midfielders. Not one centre midfielder below the age of 29. First game of the season then, and we're at home to Mallorca. The tactic is based around the players that we have available for us. Obviously, we are very limited right now, but Brahim Diaz starts up top. Something he's not naturally good at, but I'd rather keep Angel from the right. I'm tempted to actually try strikerless if this doesn't work, seeing as there's no affordable strikers for us right now. But let's see how we go first. And our season began with a Ruben Neves scoring a worldie into the top corner. He then scored a penalty, got his hat-trick with another penalty, and in the 39th minute, he scored a fourth from a free kick. Second match, we narrowly defeated Valencia with a 2-1 win. Once again, we draw a former club in our Champions League group, with PSG joining us alongside Newcastle and Standard Liège. With our last bit of transfer money, we bought Danish striker Kjærgaard from Lazio for £17 million as a player who can play anywhere for us. And he starts on the bench in our next game against Villarreal, a match in which we dominated from the second minute, 6-0, having 31 shots on target alone. Yet again, a midfielder stole the show when Aurelien Tchouameni scored 3 goals and 3 really good goals too. A hat-trick of fantastic finishes for the Frenchman. Good start to life in Madrid then as we win Manager of the Month. September was also fantastic for our league campaign with 4 wins from 4, only conceding the 1 goal. But it wasn't so good in the Champions League with a 4-1 loss to Newcastle. It started so well too in the other game when Angel found Salamiakers in the 2nd minute. But it was one of our signings from our time at PSG, Marchand, who equalised for the Parisians. And while I was in Paris, I went to see my good friend Audren for a catch-up over a bottle of wine, where he told me 59% of you are still not subscribed. November had the first El Clasico of the season where Brahim Diaz opened the scoring in Barcelona. But with both teams unbeaten so far, this wasn't going to be easy, and Barcelona equalised soon after. But the man with the mohawk in the second half from right back put us back in front. But still on a high from scoring, 3 minutes later, he lunched in and received a second yellow. And Barcelona piled on the pressure and scored a second goal late on with a header to finish the game 2-2. But this was only our first league points dropped, keeping us 2 points ahead of Barcelona, who have drawn 1 extra game than us. We are now 3rd, however, in the Champions League group with 3 games still to play. And our current top scorer is still Ruben Neves with 7 goals, which is kind of worrying, but Vinicius has now returned from injury with 6 goals in 6 games. November included another 5 wins, littered with goals from Vinicius Jr., including the winner in the Madrid derby in a 1-0 contest. But a wonderful pass by Salamiakers to Kjærgaard got the winner against PSG to save our Champions League group campaign. With another 8 goals in 3 games from Vinny Jr., we win every game in December, scoring 15 and keeping us at the top of the league. Still unbeaten, Barcelona dropping 4 points behind us. And those Champions League wins means that we topped our group eventually, with Rangers being the team in the first round knockouts. 1 loss in January, but it was in the Super Cup, which I'm absolutely okay with, and only dropping points away to Mallorca. We ended the month superbly against Villarreal, restricting them to just 2 shots off target all game. And they are the home team, which is absolutely mental. February included the first leg 1-0 win against Rangers in the Champions League, and a 3-1 win against Sociedad in the league with another 2 goals from Vinicius Jr. and a fantastic goal by Brahim Diaz. We did lose 3-2 to Barcelona, however, in the first leg of the Copa del Rey semi-final. Still, it's a fantastic month with all league games won quite emphatically, including a 7-0 and a 5-0 at-home win to Bilbao. In April, our first game was at home to Barcelona in the second leg of the Cup, and Ansu Fati was simply incredible. The statistics show a very tight and even game. The result, however, did not. In the Champions League, Rangers tied the leg when Tammy Abraham scored. But after Vinicius Jr. pulled one back in the second half, the man with the mohawk once again popped up from right back to score not 1 goal, but 2 goals when Inacio found him from a cross. And even substitute Kjærgaard came on when the tie was almost won and bagged himself a brace as well, sending us through to the quarter-finals. In the league, Diaz got another hat-trick in a 4-0 win against Elche. We did, however, go behind in the first minute to Real Sporting. Torsten Angel pulled one back not so long after, and once again Kjærgaard came off the bench to net the winner. 8 points clear of Barcelona, who have lost 2 games now, and we pull AC Milan in the Champions League. First leg, and Milan get a lucky own goal in off the crossbar to take the lead. But after an immense amount of pressure, we win the ball back. Hail Mary, a pass to Vinny Jr., who slots in an equaliser. And right on half-time, Tchouameni's run from deep was found to arrow in the winner. But our run in the competition flipped on its head when we headed to Milan and was destroyed 4-1. But after 3 more league wins, it's El Clasico time, followed by the Madrid derby. And a win in both of these games means that we will lift the La Liga trophy, first time of asking. With Brahim Diaz injured, we do have a slightly rotated team for El Clasico. But we took the lead when 6'8" Barrera scored from a free kick. Kjærgaard got in on the end of a cross to make it 2, but Barcelona then pulled one back on the 19th minute. Tchouameni put us 3-1 up soon after, and the last goal was scored by Vinicius Jr. to put us 1 win away from winning the league. So here we are then, and with Brahim Diaz still injured, there really are no changes needed. Torsten Angel gave us the perfect start, scoring in the 8th minute. However, Rooney Baji's pace though was too much, and he found Samu Mora to equalise. After Ruben Neves missed a penalty, he swung in the resulting corner, and Vinny Jr. scored to make it 2-1. But our chance to lift the league title will have to wait when Dani Olmo finished the game 2-2. After that, Desmond, the next opportunity came against Sevilla. 10 points clear with 4 games remaining, just a win or a slip-up from Atletico and Barcelona, and we are champions. We are, however, in a crisis with 3 players suspended and another not fully fit. With those changes though, it's still a strong team with Valverde popping in, who is leaving by the way, not wanting to re-sign, taking the ankle roll in front of the back 4. Vinicius Jr.'s shot was saved, but Angel was there to tap in the opener. Barrera, or 6'8" of him, towered in higher to make it 2. Melkerson's shot was blocked, but rebounded back to him to worry us a little. But worry no more, as Kjærgaard calmly placed in the 3rd and crowned us champions. And remember, we're still unbeaten as it stands with 3 games left. 3 games in which we win. And we shockingly somehow have an invincible season, with Vinicius Jr. scoring 36 goals. My biggest concern, however, is the team's age. Over half of our squad is 30 or above, and a lot are close to retirement. And because I've only been given £35 million to spend this summer to replace them. And financially, we are absolutely screwed. Another trophy was claimed and unbeaten as well. But with finances like this and a very low transfer budget, I am starting to wonder whether this is really Real Madrid. And over half of our team are now on the decline stage of their career. So I'm at a bit of a crossroads. Do I stay even though this club really is severely lacking a lot of depth? Or do I keep an eye on that manager market? So Manchester United win the Premier League. Happy days. Bayern Munich win the Bundesliga. PSG win yet another French league title, only losing 1 game. Juventus finally break a run of 6 Milan-based teams Serie A's. And 59% of you aren't subscribed yet. It's probably the first thing Onana's going to do now that he is retired. Anyway, let's take a look at some signings. Pedro Porro from my former club United on a free transfer, with Valverde going the other way. Now for just £11 million, we have Bulgarian Kirillov from Newcastle. Solid midfielder with fantastic mental attributes. The most expensive signing was 20 years of age, German left-back Leckie from Frankfurt. An already amazing left-back who can also play in midfield with a ton of potential, becoming one of the world's best. A lot of offers coming in for our players, but I am simply rejecting them all. First game of the season against Bilbao then, and we bring in Kirillov, Leckie, and Porro straight into the team. And although we lose Vinny Jr. through injury in the game for another 3 weeks, things started off well when Angel's cross was turned in for an own goal. Angel then stepped up for a goal of his own in the second half, and Kjærgaard scored a 3rd in injury time. The next game I give Kjærgaard a start because Vinny Jr.'s injury, and he scored again. But our keeper really let us down with Almeria's equaliser. Back to transfers, and with Pedro Porro's arrival, I can look to sell a right back like Malo Gusto. Because even though my squad is lacking a lot of squad depth, we have 5 right backs, as you can see highlighted here, so I'm more than happy to sell 1 or 2. Back to the games, and we demolish Malaga 7-0, and Brahim Diaz gets 5 goals. Malo Gusto leaves to join former club Lyon for £23 million, and literally an hour later I sold Serginho Dest to Lyon too for £16 million, which gives us about £40 million to make a last minute signing. So we sign Ismail Cisse from Lyon for £32 million. The Moroccan 18-year-old is rapidly quick and agile with fantastic finishing ability. Just an out-and-out striker and a very good backup to Vinicius Jr. Back-to-back 7-0 wins, by the way, when we stuffed Getafe with Cisse starting up front. And we took that momentum into the Champions League with a 3-0 victory over Leverkusen with some very questionable defending for the second goal. Nonetheless, it's a good start to our Champions League campaign. The only trophy, of course, we are chasing right now to win. Our winning run continues as we head to the next group stage match against Bodo Glimt. We started Ismail Cisse in this game and he scored his first Real Madrid goal in the 7th minute. After we camped outside Bodo Glimt's box, Pedro Porro fired in a rocket for the second. Brahim Diaz came off the bench to curl in the 3rd, and the man with the Mokot found Cisse for the 4th goal and his 2nd of the game. We then took a terrible loss to Sevilla by 3-0. And finally, our unbeaten run in the league since we became Real Madrid manager has come to an end. Spurs match up next then, and we set up with almost our strongest team, only Angel missing through injury. Now Spurs do have the best player in the world in Secretario, who I've mentioned before, but it was us who took the lead through Lecce. Brahim Diaz then put us 2-0 up, but Spurs came out in the second half fighting, and Secretario was the man who scored the goal. Thankfully though, Canales gave us 2-goal advantage back, but Tottenham scored a 2nd through Baumer. Luckily though, we held on to the win. But I am very jealous of this player though, absolutely incredible. 2 more wins in the league, including the 3-0 Madrid derby win with Vinicius scoring a hat-trick. However, a 0-0 draw in the home leg versus Spurs. So right now we sit in second place behind Barcelona in La Liga. However, we should be going through top in our Champions League group. 2 games against bottom half clubs, and I gave Cisse a game and he scored 5 goals in 2 games. And this was so I could field my strongest team in the next Champions League game, and it definitely paid off. Vinicius Jr. was the man of the moment, scoring 4 goals in total, as well as the man with the mohawk picking one up for himself, guaranteeing us qualification through the group stage. We just gotta top the group next. 3 more wins once again, and now we need to win our Champions League group. A beautiful start to the game, and Vinicius Jr. opens the scoring. About 12 minutes later, our lead was double with Kirillov finding the nets. Late on in the second half, Leverkusen pulled one back through a set piece. But we hold out for the win, and we take top of the group. And our next game is also an important one. El Clasico. And as you can see, we do have a couple of injuries and a suspension. Still a strong team though, and Cisse starts with Vinicius Jr. sliding to the right. And guess who opened the scoring? None other than Cisse. And after a really tight game, Brahim Diaz was the man to settle the nerves and win the game 2-0 for us. And this isn't good. I've tried to nail down Vinicius' contract all season, and he's still refusing as he wants to pursue the clubs that are interested in him. A player that came second in the Ballon d'Or this year, with the other 2 both being my old players as well. Cisse did win the European Golden Boy, however, which is fantastic. Our replacement for Vinicius though, Dusan Vlahovic. More offers for our players come through, including Brahim Diaz. But don't worry, I have a plan for this position too. João Felix is on his way back to Madrid. I also signed a cheap goalkeeper with a bit of potential because both of our goalkeepers, they're pretty poor. 1 more loss in the lead to Almeria, but we did get a 10-0 win against Malaga. Still in second place in the league, Nice in the Champions League and Sevilla in the Cup. A quarter-final win, a 3-0 win too, putting us into the semi-final of the Copa del Rey. Champions League then, and Nice actually scored first through Zamora's penalty. No, not Bobby Zamora by the way. Luckily, Torsten Angel pulled one back in the second half, followed by a goal from Kirillov. And in the 91st minute, Vinicius Jr. scored a 3rd. We took another loss in the lead to Villarreal, but we won the semi-final first leg 5-0. The second leg was happening imminently, and we did lose 1-0, but it was all good. Vinicius has decided to extend his deal for another year, but we are paying him £500,000 a week. He scored in the second leg in a game we easily won 4-1, breezing into the quarterfinals of the Champions League. Couple of more draws this month though, meaning we drop 6 points behind Barcelona. We've also drawn Tottenham Hotspur in the Cup, despite them being in our group, and Malaga in the Cup final of all teams. In the most bizarre fashion, Spurs took the lead from the right-hand side. And that world-class Secretario, he scored the second and last goal of the first leg. The second leg was swiftly followed by the cup final as well. But it only took 2 minutes for Spurs to score and put us 3 goals behind. Thankfully, it was only a short time later that Pedro Porro pulled one back from inside the box. Midfielder Kirillov was then found to score another. And in the second half, we finally pulled it back even when Brahim Diaz scored to make it 3-3 on aggregate. And on to the penalty shootout we went. And right away, Tottenham missed. We scored 2 more after that and was 1 penalty away from progressing, until Kirillov missed as well. Tottenham scored once again, and all of a sudden Lecce steps up and he fires it at the goalkeeper, and Real Madrid are eliminated. Okay, on to the cup final then, and we brush ourselves off and take a risk dropping Vinicius and Diaz with Nielsen and Cisse starting instead. It did take until extra time before we finally broke the deadlock and win the Copa del Rey. Another trophy won, but it wasn't the one that we are looking for. So we skipped to the end of the season and Barcelona held on to the league title by 4 points. Quarter-final exit is obviously not good enough, but penalties is always a lottery and I absolutely hate them. But a Copa del Rey win nonetheless. Shockingly though, we only have £20 million for the next season however, and with 6 players leaving, that's a lot of wages going out. But we do have the 2 world-class players on their way to Madrid. We need just 1 trophy to complete Glory Hunter, but of course it's the biggest trophy we need to win. It's the Champions League. And at Real Madrid, we have some very talented players on their way. So obviously Barcelona won the league last year, but we did win the Copa del Rey. Elsewhere, Manchester United win the Premier League. Bayern Munich won the Bundesliga. PSG continues to dominate France. Miss you, Nicholas. Inter Milan almost win the league by 20 points, despite AC Milan having one of, if not the best striker on the game. And 58% should subscribe. while Bayern Munich win the Champions League on penalties against Spurs. Dusan and João Felix arrive and it's business time. And with the outgoings, we've been able to maneuver the budget to give us £60 million to buy a player. With my plan to bring in a better goalkeeper, as we only actually have one left. And Garza is the man we've had a bid accepted for. He's not world class, but for the price, he's definitely worth it. And just like that, he's our #1 goalkeeper. We also lose Militao as he retires from the professional game. Remember last year, by the way, when we had 5 right backs? Well, now we only have 1, and I have no idea how that happened. So we got an offer accepted for Kalulu for £17.25 million. And we get the deal done, and for a 34-year-old, I think he's still decent. Now, before we hit the first game of the season, we've changed the tactic to a diamond. With our first game of the season being away to Vallecano, we bring in our new signings across the pitch. Dusan Vlahovic is perfect for that target forward role, and I'm excited to see the link-up play of this front three with Cisse when he comes off the bench or in rotation. And we absolutely dominated the game 7-1. And João Felix put in a 10 out of 10 performance, starting off with a free kick, breaking through for a second and capping off his hat-trick with another identical second free kick. We actually play Barcelona in the next match too, an early El Clasico. Unchanged side against Barcelona, the champions. And what a performance it was. All 3 goals came in the second half, but the overall performance was fantastic. Vlahovic picking up the first, left back Lecce getting the second, and Kjærgaard rounding off the game in the 88th minute. I had £10 million left in the budget and went for 33-year-old Oliver Skip for some depth in midfield. Chelsea then came in with £30 million upfront offer for Canales, who's a winger, and we're not even using wingers, so I accepted it. Canales leaves, Skip joins, and my window is done. Our Champions League group is drawn, and we have the current holders Bayern Munich in our group. We kick things off in September with a loss to Celta Vigo and a draw to Mallorca, unfortunately. But 2 goals from Cisse and Vinny Jr. got us back on track in the league versus Getafe. But most importantly, we started off very strong in the Champions League, winning 6-0 with Vlahovic scoring a hat-trick. We followed that with a 6-1 win in Belgium against Standard Liège. But the Bayern game we knew would be a lot tougher, and in Munich, we took the lead. 2 minutes later, a former Real Madrid player scored a penalty. After some scrappy defending though, Dusan took advantage and scored a second. But in the second half, a gap opened up for Adeyemi, who was clinical and finished the game 2-2. The rest of October was fantastic too, as we carried on winning the league, only conceding 1 goal in 4 games against Villarreal in a 5-1 win. Funny enough though, we're still in second place because the only team to beat us, Celta Vigo, are flying right now and still unbeaten. We are top of the Champions League group on goal difference though, and after a very tight win against Huesca at home, we welcome the European champions Bayern Munich to the Bernabeu in the only way we know how, with Kirillov scoring in the first half and João Felix notching another in the second. We followed that win with a 3-0 victory away to Espanyol. The second goal by João Felix was beautifully crafted, and the third was a fantastic cross-ball, touch and finish by left-back Lecce. Another 2 wins followed, 1 in the league against Girona and a 7-1 home win in the Champions League, and things are looking great for us. We are still trailing Celta Vigo, however. Cisse is getting a run of starts and repaid that back by scoring a lot of goals, including a hat-trick in the snow when we travelled to Ukraine. The result was 4-0 and it cemented us to the top of the group. We surrounded that game with an unbelievable amount of goals and 3 points in all 3 of our La Liga matches, including this incredible 8-2 result in the Madrid derby with Vinicius getting 4 goals and João Felix getting a hat-trick. And then in January, this happened. Yep, we signed Erling Haaland. Now it is at the end of the season when his contract expires, but still, he is world class and one hell of a pickup. January started with a 1-0 win against Las Palmas thanks to Vlahovic's goal, game in which he adds an extra year onto his contract. We win the Super Cup, which nobody cares about, and beat Sociedad and progress in the Copa del Rey, with Sevilla and Barcelona coming up next. And after dispatching Sevilla 3-0, we head into El Clasico with this lineup due to 3 first-team suspensions. And to say we missed them would be an understatement. We lost 4-0. We are still top in the league, however, and Celta Vigo have dropped off. But we've been drawn against my old Inter Milan team in the next round of the Champions League. Despite beating them 8-2 last time round, Atletico knocked us out the Copa del Rey 3-2. But 3 more league wins puts us in a good spot for the Inter Milan game. A game in which we knew would be difficult. and we could have done without making a defensive mistake to gift them a first goal. Luckily though, a long ball over the top found Tchouaméni to fire in an equaliser. However, Inter Milan regained the lead just 5 minutes later, but João Felix popped up once again with another exceptional free kick to leave the first leg 2 apiece. Second leg, and yet again Tchouaméni found himself in and chipped the goalkeeper. Vinicius Jr. killed the tie off when he scored a penalty. And just a quick reminder that Tchouaméni's finishing is a 5 out of 20, and yet the man has been clinical. The March League results though, 3 draws, meaning we dropped down to second place, but still with a game in hand. And we've drawn Liverpool in the quarter-final. Leading up to that match, we finally got a win in the league, back with a 5-2 victory away to Betis. Vinicius Jr. is out with an injury, so Cisse and Vlahovic are starting the first leg against Liverpool. And Cisse was the guy to open the scoring on the half-hour mark at Anfield. However, you can never write Liverpool off in European nights, and they equalised just before half-time. But that's how this leg ended. Things are very different at the Bernabeu when Cisse opened the scoring. Vlahovic then scored a penalty and got on the end of a corner. Tchouaméni was then found with another long ball to make it 4-0. And finally, Cisse sent the Scousers home in tears, making it 5-0 or 6-1 on aggregate. We are still a point behind Barcelona in the league, and it's PSG in the semi-final, another former club. 3 more wins in the league restores us to the top of La Liga, and it's time to host PSG. Rocking the same team as the 5-0 win against Liverpool, let's go again. From the off, Nicolas Audren caused us problems assisting Damien Perez. And from our kickoff, Audren scored a goal of his own. That man Tchouaméni once again got himself on the score sheet to make it 2-1. But PSG restored their 2-goal lead through Arsene Zakarian. The last goal of the game came when Cisse scored in the second half, 3-2. Vinicius is only good enough for the bench after his injury, so a similar team starts in Paris. But we put on an all-time Champions League classic semi-final tie, starting with a João Felix goal. Audren equalised on the night around the half-hour mark, but from our kickoff, Kirillov put us back level on aggregate. João Felix in the 80th minute then scored, and Pierre Kalulu got another one on the 84th, and at that point, we are 2 goals ahead. But our old friend Audren is just way too good, and he scored a second. And in the 92nd minute, he equalised, sending us into extra time, where thankfully, João Felix scored a penalty, sending us through to the Champions League final. And how poetic that Manchester United are the team to face us in the final. And with back-to-back 6-0 wins in the league, we are potentially 1 win away from winning La Liga. And that game is Real Sociedad at home, which started off great when Cisse scored within 3 minutes. João Felix increased our lead to 2, and by the time Vinny Jr. put in the third, it was almost game over. But there was still time for Cisse to pick up a 4th and his hat-trick to cap off a fantastic day. However, Barcelona also won, and this title goes to the next match, meaning we could actually win the league against our Madrid rivals. And we drew that game 1-1, and that's all that we needed. We are once again La Liga champions. But that's not what we're here for, is it? It's the Champions League final. We are starting Kalulu, who has been outstanding for us at centre-back alongside Inacio, but the rest of the team is the usual strongest lineup. And we begin piling on the pressure before the ball is dropped back to Tchouaméni, who somehow finds Lecce, the left-back, with a wonderful pass, an unbelievable volley to open the scoring. But just as we broke their defence, United played an over-the-top through ball to my old signing Dedic, who chipped the goalkeeper. But in the 80th minute, we attack again. Felix to Olvera, through ball to Lecce, 1 pass to Vinicius, who chips the goalkeeper. And we held on, and we completed Glory Hunter. We finally add the Champions League trophy, the final trophy, to our trophy cabinet. And we finally tick off our Glory Hunter bingo card. Now, I'll put this save game file up on patreon.com/MegaLootGaming on the £5 tier. Should you wish to download it, take a look at it, carry on the save if you wish, but massive thank you for watching this series. Why don't you watch this video where we try and break Lionel Messi's 2012 record? Thank you once again.